Oh, hey everybody, POTU David here, streaming live, and we got so much to talk about today, and there, I want to do some. I'm thinking about doing some separate streams for different topics. I got a friend that she just got started a new job, and it's bringing stability to her. She's a real go getter, and got my first Patreon subscriber, which is like, um, it's there's a story there too, and maybe I'll share a little bit about that. She's also a founder. I call them founders. I've got two founders, so DDTC, and maybe we'll talk about that story too. So I'm broadcasting this to 5 different locations around the world. I know, so you need to know up front that right now I can't. If you try to message me on any of the platforms, I'm not monitoring chat. And if you're like trying to respond on Twitter or Twitch or whatever, I'm just a dude and I don't have a staff. So um, what I'm kind of focusing in right on YouTube right now because they're huge. And when I put content there, it reaches a large audience. I like working through Facebook because managing groups in Facebook is really, really easy. And I know everyone is doing, they're like becoming independent of social media platforms while broadcasting, and I'm not there yet. So, and Patreon has its own little messaging system and engine there. And if you become a Patreon member, all you're going to get is my welcome message, and it was written in January, and I rewrote it today because now I have to give some attention there. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring like 20 years worth of writings and data that I can draw upon. And then, I specialize in cryptocurrency around financial empowerment. Why? Because you can start with zero. Okay. Everyone's selling courses out there. Well, Dave, why aren't you selling a course? Well, I was doing it. I spent some money on subscriptions through Samcart. Really cool platform. And the thing is the written part of the documentation interfacing with their platform is kind of a pain. But doing videos is kind of cool. But editing videos, and I'm too much of a perfectionist, and I'm got too much do it yourself DIY, and I don't have a staff, and I don't have enough funding for staff because my money is tied up in the markets. Because I'm actively trading the markets, and I'm actively testing different kinds of things, and then kind of I don't know somewhere in the middle or towards the second half of last year, I noticed I was starting. I finally noticed I was dealing with concussion symptoms, which probably started after I had COVID, which literally the symptoms showed up on January 1st of 2022. My little headband is a little there we go, that's a little bit better. Most of you will probably you probably see me on one of my hats. This is kind of a look that, most of you will probably see. Yeah. Um, I wanna do multiple cameras and switch frames and all sorts of cool stuff, and I just not set up for it. I've got all this cool technology,
Yeah, I mean, I can switch to, ooh, hey, precious.
and just fun stuff like that, and, I just I work full time like probably most of you do, and it really I mean, it literally is taking me 2 years to get at peace with saying, "Hey, you know, here, send me $5 a month on Patreon." Because, I do really well with the trading and stuff like that. And, so last year, it's really weird how I discovered that I was dealing with, impairments, long COVID stuff. I'm assuming that. It may be complicated by the fact that I had a concussion 8 years ago, but I remembered the symptoms. So, like, I would discover, like, across 2 separate accounts, I purchased the same, let's say, tool. I marketed tools all the time. I test stuff all the time. And it's like I bought it twice, and I would remember buying one of them, but, like maybe the previous week, I didn't remember the previous week. Anyway, you don't know you do not know that you have an impairment.
Alert from Elgato Stream Deck notifications.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but I don't know why I'm getting notifications. I don't want my Stream Deck giving me notifications. Anyway, I'm broadcasting on a Mac platform, and I've got a Stream Deck thing here where I can adjust my lighting, which is really kind of cool. I got buttons that I can press to do things, but I haven't gone that far. I've got this really cool Rode. I wish I could show it to you. It's a Rodecaster Pro 2. I have no idea how to use much of it other than I can control all sorts of things and channels and stuff. And maybe if I get to a place where I'm broadcasting and bring guests online, there's all sorts of cool stuff. One thing that was driving me nuts is like this headset was programmed in the primary, and I think the first stream I did,
The whole training was in this voice because I was playing it. I thought it was really, really cool.
but I didn't real this headset, you can't hear that. And anyway, so I got other headsets, and anyway, I'm set up to do some really, really cool stuff, and then I ran into these impairments in the middle of the year, and then that started freaking me out, and I'm dealing with my own mind game. And so anyway, I'm in the midst of all this cool stuff while working full time, and I work a swing shift, so I'm a little rotate, which is kind of cool because I could today's my day off, one of my days off. Today's my Sunday, it's Monday. And the markets leaped up last night, which was really cool because one of my larger bots, exited out, and I set a trap, and we'll be reviewing that in spreadsheets here in a little bit. And the market did not dip, so my bot's not functioning, but it's okay. And I wanted to, there's different models, right, for revenue production. And why do I want to do revenue production? Because, well, this stuff, these cool tools, they actually cost me a lot of money. And the impairments, ended up spending stuff on anyway. I created some debt for myself that I shouldn't have had I been thinking properly. And I just like, well, I want to pay it down. And it's like, well, you need to get past this do-it-yourself thing, David. So this is an exercise in me being open to receive from you, the audience. And Cindy's my first Patreon subscriber, and I have a private forum. I started this out as like this super secret thing because there's people I didn't want to train in financial empowerment because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of misinformation in our world, and otherwise good people are being radicalized. And I'm not talking about religious stuff. It could be religious stuff, but I have theories about why it's happening, and I have solutions for it. I have solutions for immigration problems. I write in and I use something called Resist Bot all the time. So I'm constantly suggesting making things and stuff. I thought, well, you know what? I'm just like this dude. During the wintertime, hippie Santa. If I'm not wearing the headband, I kind of look like Odin. And this when I'm wearing one of these, this is my beloved Dinah got me this. It's kind of cute because I have another hat, which you can almost see up in the. Can I show you there? But you can't see because it's blurred out. This is kangaroo skin, but you got it. But what's cool, and the reason why I'm so excited about it, it's one of the strongest leathers in the world, but they don't grow them and slaughter the animals. It's kind of an indigenous. It's against the law to do that. It's against the law to hunt kangaroo. Well, can you get a kangaroo hat? Well, it's because it's part of their sustainability. When the animal loses its life cycle or dies and whatever sort of thing, they don't let the animal go to waste. And so the kangaroo that this hat was made from did not die for my pleasure. Their life, and when it came to their end life, was not wasted or buried. And I just thought the concept was really, really cool. And I wanted one of those. And I learned about it going through Dutch Bros, wearing my other hat. And I usually get a lot of attention with my beard. I mean, my beard is so long now. I mean, I can't even get it in frame, right? And if you see some of my other pictures, I used to have high and tight, and now I'm kind of like I'm Odin. Story of Odin is kind of cool. Anyway, I have so much to talk about. And what's weird is the impairments means I sometimes have a hard time staying on track and on focus. And I've been fighting it, trying to create content for 2 years. Writing helps me focus, but then I have to edit it, and I hate editing my own writing. Video is kind of cool because I can talk forever, right, on any topic, but I usually get into segues. So what I'm doing is I'm like, when this recording's done, I save it to a place, and I've got all sorts of topics: bots, active trading, something called beast mode trading, financial stuff. I'm working on a relationship series. I'm gonna when I'm done with this vlog, I'm gonna be doing a broadcast about, what do you do if you don't have a job, you don't know what to do next? And I have a friend that I realize I've been life coaching since about age 14. Didn't know it was I'm the guy that people would come to privately and quietly when everything else failed. When trying to sell your soul to Satan has failed, you went out in the wilderness, you sacrificed a goat or whatever you saw in Hollywood, and that failed, and prayer failed, and Jesus failed, or Allah failed, or witchcraft failed, or whatever it is that they tried failed. And don't kid yourself, I have yet to meet a human being that hasn't tried something, right? Most people would be willing to sell their soul to the devil in a heartbeat. It is not about that. It didn't work for them. And then it's like, well, David, I'm losing my house, or my marriage is coming to an end, or my business, the market is, all this stuff. And I've had a foreclosure. I've had multiple financial catastrophes, relationship catastrophes. I've been subjected to gaslighting and all sorts of things. I didn't even know I was being abused. Even some childhood memories of actual physical torture came back to me during COVID, that I blocked out. And anyway, there's just a lot of life experience. But through all of that, I've actually given out some pretty good advice to people that have helped transform their lives. I remember MySpace was a thing before Facebook, and I remember I would just kind of like blog about things about my day and how I approached my day. And I would, and even today on Facebook, I'll get little private messages just from people that I don't know from anywhere in the world saying, man, that post you made, just you saved my life, or you transferred my life. And I've had people that I've lost to suicide and just stuff. And I've been willing to do and try stuff. And anyway, so like I'm going to be 59 years old this year, 2023, and I like have this toolbox. And I think over the last 5 years, I realized that, wow, I've got a pretty effective toolbox. And I'm kind of rebellious by nature, but I see things differently, and I'm constantly learning and growing myself. So if you want to throw something in my face from 20, 30 years ago, that's fine. Go for it. I've grown since then. And one thing I've learned is I used to judge people all the time. I used to argue with people all the time. And then having to come to terms with myself. And I'm a Star Trek fan, by the way, and really loving the Picard Series 3. In this last episode, episode 3, where Picard was faced with his past as being Locutus, something for which he had no control over. But the burden of what that meant, it was just an incredible episode. I love the Ready Room episode, things afterwards. I grew up on Star Trek. Scotty was kind of like my hero as well as Spock. I think Spock because my parents divorced and stuff, so I like the fact that he brought chaos. He's just like, logic and reason was his guiding context. But I'm just a kid. I don't know what I'm being influenced, right? And Scotty, he was always the dude that saved the day. Man, he fixed stuff. He knew stuff. Life advice, like during it's just like, oh, don't ever tell him the real timeline, otherwise you'll lose your title as a miracle worker. I mean, just love the dude. And then later, I found out that in real life, the man was like a saint. I mean, the things that he did for fans and just stuff that just inspired. So I love Scotty. Loved his character, loved his role, but I did not realize I was born in '64, so I didn't realize that there was this big revolution going on. I grew up in Wisconsin, and I met one black kid in grade school, and he was cool, and everyone thought he was cool. We never saw a black human before. We didn't we didn't know anything. We had no names. We had no slanders or slurs, no racism, no nothing. And we got along with everyone. He was a cool kid. And so I didn't have that in me till I was older. And I don't even know why or how I got it. But I just remember the first black person I ever met. And he was a cool kid. I can't remember his name. So I was in grade school. And I remember in grade school, a neighbor. I'm not going to say his name, Jimmy up the road. I'll just use his first name. We were at his kitchen table. I don't know if it was first grade, maybe. Um, and he was asking me where I went to church, and I never heard the word church before. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to get in that conversation because it'll stereotype me in terms of religious beliefs and stuff like that. If you want to know what POTU stands for, it stands for Path of the Unlimited. And that came to me about 20 years ago when I couldn't figure out a label what I was. I mean, I've explored and looked at everything. I've looked at Judaism, Christianity. I've done all these paths. I've looked at Islam. I've looked at Buddhism. I've looked at, I mean, some of the things out of the ancient things were Sanskrit as base of stuff, indigenous things. I always wondered, why would anyone want to become a Satanist? They're Satan's evil. They want to destroy humanity and stuff. And why would anyone want to be a witch? And I met some. It's like, well, it's kind of weird because they were like more Christ-like than the people who I knew as Christians when I was pathing as a Christian and stuff like that. And so if you're a Christian out there, 72% chance of you being one, that's cool. Oh, that's okay. Okay. I have to be careful what I say because sometimes if you go read some of the stuff I write, I'm very critical of belief systems from their histories and some of their manipulative points of view, right? And sometimes, if you were to catch one of those, you wouldn't realize that I also talk about the good things in history. Like I can talk about, like I live in Oregon. So I remember visiting a friend that was at Providence Hospital, which is a Catholic hospital, right? And I can criticize that whole belief system and their histories, right? But the story, I walked through the basement, and there's this thing in the corner. It was about the Sisters of Providence. I never heard of them before, right? And I was, Catholicism is part of my history. And I read the story and I was blown away. It was during the gold rush here, and here are these nuns on horseback going out to the gold camps. And you know what's in the gold camps? There's gambling and whorehouses, right? That's what they're spending. What were they raising money for? To build a hospital. And they were told by their leaders, men, right? Men, no, we don't have any money for that. Yeah. Wealthiest belief system in the world at the time, power, control, all of it. We don't have any money for that. So what they do? They went out to. Can you just imagine nuns and horses going to gold mining camps and just, and Oregon was the wild, wild west. Crazy, crazy stuff happening here. If you go to some of the ancient cemeteries and stuff like that, you won't see religious iconry. You'll see Mason iconry and other sorts of stuff. Anyway, the history is just crazy here. But I did some research and I was like, wow, it's just like women got it done. Men didn't get it done. Women got it done. So anyway, I can launch in all sorts of segues about that. And I think women are reclaiming their power in history. We're learning they were warriors. We were learning they were healers. We were learning that when men got pissed at them, they called them witches and then would burn them alive or torture them to death. And this crap started, I don't know, about 5,000 years ago, but we had an epoch 10,000 years ago, and there was whole civilizations, mature civilizations. We cannot even recreate their technology today with our technology that are pre 10,000 years ago. And we're finally starting to admit that, oh, we weren't just dumb hunters and gatherers 20,000 years ago. Yeah. In fact, there was somebody touring the planet bringing technology to diverse cultures. Yeah, so we're reclaiming our history, but we've been lied to. I was born and raised in the Midwest. My public school training told me the Indians were savages, and the modern culture and Christianity, saved them, and they were in awe of the God of the white man. And this is what I was learning in public school. And then I was like, wow, it's really, why are people still indigenous? And I went and met some indigenous people. I went and talked to some Satanists, and I went and found some witches to talk to, and some Dianic witches. And I've got lots of fun stories. And what I've learned is every human being that I know of is doing the best that they know how to do in that moment of time. What about predators and criminals and blah, blah, blah? Well, yeah. Well, first of all, I've been in a I've been in, some businesses where they would gather people, and I've been in an auditorium where like 30,000 people from all over the United States, and they were all pretty much aligned with one business kind of system and things. And I remember, one of the speakers says, "Okay, who here has ever stolen anything in their life?" And I looked around and it's like 30,000 hands went up, including my own. And it's like, oh, who here has ever lied? And I looked around and just like everybody. Who here has ever been so angry they thought about killing somebody? Everybody. I still remember that. I'm like, wow, I don't have to be perfect because no one else is. But we have these things. So this is like 30 years ago. I was a young man at the time, and I had no idea how common our life experience is. Right. I think the movie Eat, Pray, Love talks about it. This girl that they were in a boat, and he talks about at the beginning of the movie, and she had this revelation that's like, well, they're having the same relationship issues. Fell in love with a guy on the boat. I mean, just you know, third world shithole, right? Coming for freedom, and even they're from a different culture, different language, whatever, same relationship issues that most of us have. And I spent most of my I started asking questions at age 6, and I'm like, wow. Um, man, one of these days I'll share more in depth of these stories. But anyway, so I'm like 59 years old, and I got this toolbox, and uh, just so much stuff. So, long story short, about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, during COVID, Diana, my partner, my beloved, my goddess, I call her. She takes care of the health part. We see health and wealth. She's the healthy piece of this, and she's part of a team. And actually, I do stuff for her and do marketing for her and stuff like that. And anyway, and I'm on the program she's doing, and I've lost 30 pounds and blah 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 blah. And everyone's got a story, and I'm not here to pitch that. But that's what it is. Is like, what is when you get older, you start having health issues. Like I'm a type 2 diabetic, so it's like, well, how'd that happen? That's another story, and I could talk about an hour of that. And I'm trying not to get that because that's not even on my list of things to do. But my point is, one of the reasons, because you're supposed to just focus on one thing when you broadcast like this. I'm like, well, what good is health? What good is wealth if you don't have your health? And what good is wealth if you are cycling through shitty relationships in life, right? Um, Women have valid complaints against having to deal with us men, and I've been the only dude in a room full of women who were learning about and reclaiming their past, and feeling the seething hate for me as a man, and thinking of actually Susan, not the Susan that's probably watching this. She was a Dianic witch, and I sat next to her, and everyone was talking about stuff, and she went off on, she's a woman, and just went off on things that Dianic witches go on. And she was sitting right next to me, and she was just like looking at me, and she was just like trying to destroy any sense of confidence as me, my ego, whatever, as a man, right? And it was really cool. And I just sat there, and then it was my turn to talk. And I looked at her and I said, well, I want everyone to know the first thing, just in case you're confused, I am a man. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and the room went silent. And it was like everyone was really tense because she was like attacking all men, and I'm the only man in a group full of women, and she was attacking me. She was attacking all men, but I was the target, right? And then it was my turn to speak, and you could feel the tension in the air. And then my first response was I looked at her just calmly like this. I said, "Well, I just want you to know, and everyone else here, I'm a man." And I stared at her, and she stared at me, and she smiled, and I smiled. And then I introduced myself, and we became great friends. And for that time period when I passed that in my life, and she shared her hurt, her pain, her story, and I listened to the hurt and pain and stories of different women from different belief systems. And I was like one of the first men in their lives. I realized I needed to do something. And I remember coming to one of those meetings, and I bought, I think it was yellow roses or white roses, or maybe I can't remember what the color was. And I remember going around the room and taking a knee and apologizing to every woman there for what my gender has done to them for the last 6,000 years. And yeah, there wasn't a dry eye, and it was a mess. And there's just I have a whole story behind how recognizing that women are not slaves. They're not my helpmates. They're not even about being my equals. They are just fellow sentient beings, and they are part of the process that perpetuate our species, right? And they deserve a hell of a lot more respect and reverence than I was born and raised to just use women, male chauvinism, all that stuff. I was born and raised to do that. I didn't know any better, and anyway, that's part of my history. I don't know why has nothing to do with what I've planned for this episode, but I'm just going to go with it. I think part of this is to help people get to know who I am. So 2 years ago, I started trading crypto, and I got some results after being liquidated once. And after a couple of months, after I learned so much, I started transforming my finances, and I realized that I had been financially empowered. And I wanted to share that with friends and family, and that's part of where DDTC comes from and all that sort of stuff. I'm noticing that things are just going. Things are going right now, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But let's get on track. So let's talk about before I go any further, because I'm going to start talking about money and stuff like that. I need to do a disclaimer because it's you know, guys, I have a website, an authoring website, and in there I have a thing about domestic violence and abuse and legal stuff, right? And if you're running with finances and I have a whole program with how to deal with creditors and stuff, and that's not even part of my thing. But I'm very versed in legal stuff. I've had clients like that in IT throughout my life, and anyway, I don't want to deal with it. So I have a disclaimer. So I'm going to play that now. All right, now that I got that out of the way, just a couple cool little things here. So, this logo up here in the corner, this one, I'll flash it for you. I don't like the red. This was kind of the original one. I think you saw it at the end of there. I'm still working on it. I'm not attached to it, so just want to let you know. So I've got a little bit of an outline of things that I want to do. If you're just coming in, I shared some really personal stuff getting started that just showed up. So kind of like who, what, why stuff, helping you get to know me a little bit type of thing. I think someone like popped in, popped out during the middle of the whatever that thing was. But anyway, so let's get into this a little bit. I've got an outline, so I wanna like do that. So let's turn this on. So I have a Patreon page, and I've had this. It's all in the journey for a long time. I know it's boring, right? And I can't even tell you where I got it from. And so this is just a new project. And look, I've got my first Patreon. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and one person on this planet resonated enough to say, David, I want to support what you're doing, $5 a month. It's kind of cool. Her name's Cindy, and I know her, but I've never met her. I want to share my story because it's a cool story. So her and I, we have a similar addiction. We are learning machines. We love to learn stuff. We spend way too much money on courses and things like that. She is a powerhouse trader in cryptocurrency, and she started noticing posts that I was making in a course that I spent like $1,500 to learn trading, specifically cryptocurrency, and it was a starting point. And I was I had a $1,200 training budget. I'm telling everyone, if you want some advice, don't do. If you're going to want to learn something, let me tell you a couple things. First of all, paper trading, don't waste your time. Okay, I mean if you're going to do stocks and options and stuff like that, yes, do that first because I guess I'm giving advice, but I'm giving you my opinion, okay? because you can't even get started in that without thousands of dollars usually to be effective, right? Although I did tune into a course and I found one place where the micro minis you can get started with as little as $100. But I'm from a world where my first, you know, I s- I was it I had to save up like a couple $1,000s just to get on an exchange, right? And then, you can lose that money, boom, in a heartbeat. Same thing with commodities, all that sort of stuff. Cryptocurrencies, you can get started with $1 or free. I actually proved it last year, and I'll be talking about that a little bit later. But so I recommend you learn with $5, and if you get liquidated, it's okay because it's $5, right? Instead of spending $1,500 in a training, how many times could you get liquidated if you were to just let the market teach you? They sell you stuff. Oh, I'm going to save you years and stuff, and they kind of do, but not really. You could fail 300 times. So I promptly, after spending $1,500, I promptly lost $1,200, simply because I didn't understand some simple little stupid thing, and it would have been way better if I was just trading with $5. So just a tidbit of experience. I regained that money back so hard and so fast because I gave myself permission to bring my knowledge and wisdom to this. In fact, actually, I got charts back up here, so that's kind of cool. Um, let me let me turn this off because we don't really need to see this anymore. And let me turn off this QR code thing, which is kind of cool. It's a new feature that's available to me. All right, so Cindy noticed that I was doing some cool stuff, and then I was getting some results, and I was realizing that some folks were really getting hurt, and I just decided to create my own little private little thing because of a promise that I made. When I was like 21 years old, I was driving in the middle of the night somewhere, and I just wanted to be successful, right? I had that drive. And I kind of made my own pact, not with the devil, with my concept of good and deity. I said, "Man, if I can just learn how to be successful, what I will do is I'll teach what I have learned to other people, and I will burden that person. I'll teach one other person um, what I know, and I'll mentor them so that they can become successful, and I'll ask them to just keep it going, like a legacy thing, like, because I wanna make the world a better place." I had that insight at age 20, 21, and I've done so many things, real estate and all of it and seminars, and anyway, Cindy's kind of a kindred spirit around that. She's kind of similar things, and I've sat across the table from billionaires, and, I've been a guest to anyway, I've been around the block. And, so what was kinda cool is, we connected, and, we learned from each other and stuff, and, she dropped me a note in a private forum telling me that I got some of the best content out there, and I'm a content creating beast, I think is what she called me today, so, I need that because, I was, like, born like everybody, born and raised with peasant ideologies looking out at the world. And that has influenced me. So I don't feel worthy to be here sharing this stuff, and that's a common thing. And so I'm an advocate of just trying to be humble, even though sometimes I have so much confidence. I'm not very humble. Just ask anyone who really knows me. But where this segue from when I started this is everybody out there, no matter who you are out there, just realize everyone's going through their own stuff and we all have common issues we go through. I stopped judging people. I started wanting to like have solutions, even abusers and criminals, right? They, except for some certain types of mental illnesses, um, for which they had no control over. A lot of abusers were victims first, and because of the abuse they experienced, they vowed to never ever be helpless or powerless again in their lives. And I've met anyway. I took a deep dive through that and was abused myself, not physically but mentally, emotionally, and I learned from it. And it's part of my toolbox. I remember one time I was facing just deciding I'm done, and I'll share this story. This is kind of where Rule of Three came from. This is an anti-suicide thing. I always tell folks, listen, before you go, let me share this story with you. If everything was going bad, money was bad, finances were bad, the relationship in my life hated me. I was all alone. I was in a home that I was kind of constructing, and I just reached out, in prayer type of thing, and just I had this idea to go check my safe and check my insurance policy, and I was looking for a sign what to do next, right? And I found my essential papers, and the suicide clause on $1 million life insurance policy had just been fulfilled like a few days before. And I thought, okay, this will solve all my problems, children's education, pay off the debts. This person who used to love me, who now hates me, she'll be handled for life. All I have to do is literally bite the bullet. And so I, pulled out my weapon at the time, loaded it up. And just as I was about to take care of business, and I was at peace, I was at total peace at this point because I had a solution. I had this little voice inside of me, and it was my voice saying, okay, you can do this. But before you do this, I just want you to know if you choose to navigate this and survive this, everything you learn from this will be of service to other people. And I put it down and I unloaded the weapon, and I carried that bullet with me for like 2 years. And I've never questioned the struggles of my life since then. And I've shared that story in writing and in live and in person and on the phone talking people down. And, one of the things I've learned is we all need a higher purpose. And, I watch things, I like some reality things like The World's Toughest Prisons. And what I've noticed is we humans will seek out purpose. But when we no longer have purpose, people who retire, if they don't have a purpose in their retirement, they die fast. One of the most successful men I've ever met in my life as a client, his name was Mert. He was the owner of Mount Tabor Cruise and Travel, and he was also Mount Tabor Real Estate, Mert Allen. I can talk about him because he's passed. Most amazing man. He was a Seventh-day Adventist, and I couldn't work on Fridays. I was his consultant. This guy in his 70s was remodeling and expanding his office, and is just the most amazing man. He was just a quiet dude, and he got accosted once, and he went in, and they found out he had cancer or something, and they put him in hospice because he was supposed to die. 14 days later, they discharged him from hospice, and he went on to live a couple more years. I don't think he was ready. And I remember he was setting he sold his office, he's cleaned up his life and all this sort of stuff, but I was still his consultant, and I remember working in the basement of his home. He set up a home office. He's in his 80s now, I think. And I says, "Mert, I gotta ask." He says, "What's that?" I says, "What's it like to go to bed every night and not know if you're gonna wake up the next day?" And he chuckled. He says, "Oh, you're talking about the hospice thing." I says, "Yeah, what's that like?" And he chuckled. He says, "Dave, to be honest with you, I thought it was a recovery center. I didn't know I was supposed to die." Anyway, the dude was into cruises. He loved cruises. He loved me because when I met him, he was doing 80,000 direct mails through a lithograph machine, a crank machine. For younger folks, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And I introduced him to a PC and technology where he could print envelopes. And then email. Oh gosh, he was he was an older guy. He just loved tech and how it served him. And I think his last cruise, he was in a wheelchair like a week before he passed. And the stories, I went to his life remembrance, and there were people from he says, "Oh, you all know Mert, this nice guy, this leader of the community. I knew him when he was 10." And I think it was like 10. He saw this blind guy and with a stick. And so Mert went and got a stick and painted the bottom of it white and red. And anyway, one of his neighbors who knew him called his mom and says, "Hey, your son's trying to get free money." Anyway, it's just, scamming, right? It's so he went from that as a young man. He had that drive. It's just one of the most successful men. And you wouldn't have known he was very, very middle class living house, but he just lived his life. And he taught me so much. And I was so honored to know him. And also another one of person's name was Ray. Just incredible. They had a little partnership, and they just were just doing their thing, and they were living life. I got so many stories, and I like to share that. So anyway, and I got more stories happening even right now. But before we get into that, I want to get back on track to talking about exploring what's possible. And a lot of folks, the reason why I keep talking because I have so many windows in the background open that I want to bring in here. I sometimes they just disappear on me. And I think I literally just closed the window that I wanted to drag in here. So I apologize for that. Oh, here it is. I found it. Where did it go? Here it is. It's like hiding. Oh, it was like halfway invisible. I apologize for this to everybody. Where is it? All right. We're going to do a little training. So this is a reward for hanging out or being here, or this is my day off. So I did my shout out to Cindy. Oh, did I? Oh, I'm ahead of myself. Hold on. Stop. Reset. I want to talk about XRP and why I'm choosing XRP for bots, because I think that why some folks might be tuned into me right now. Versus Ethereum and Bitcoin. So I was just got out of one of my larger bots. There's so many pieces, and if you're brand new and you haven't heard me talking, you don't know what I'm talking about. I do stuff where I show you how you can start from $0 or $5 and turn into $1 million, right? So it starts with mission one. And mission one is turning $5 into $10. You're gonna have to excuse me because I need to get a drink of water because I got a little thing in my throat. While I do this, I'm gonna show some affirmations. Give me a moment. All right, I'm back. So why XRP? Why is my voice failing? Probably because I spent all day doing this sort of thing. XRP is big money is not investing it like hedge fund managers. The reason why Ethereum, Bitcoin's in the news, in and out, in and out. Why did it start rallying today? Well, because the U.S. federal government said that they're going to bail out this bank and no one's going to lose any money. So everyone's like, oh, it's big money says, okay, it's safe to go in, and it's kind of dipped right now, and they've made billions of dollars in the last 24 hours, right? And that's cool, and I'm really glad because I've been stuck in a bot. That for 21 days. It was one of my I've been I feel like I've mastered high leverage trading. And when I say high leverage trading, I'm talking about 100x and above trading. And I've also mastered low leverage trading. So the first time I doubled my money in like 60 days. When I did the high leverage trading, I doubled my money in 6 days. And then I had these impairments show up, which I talked about earlier in this episode of what I'm recording here. And I needed to adapt because I couldn't really do the trading the way I know how to do with the impairments that show up. And they're intermittent, which you never know when you're under the influence of impairment. So, but XRP was like the first crypto I ever purchased. I really thought the project was incredible, and it was recommended way back in the day. And I bought it for 4 cents, right? And it like literally within the first 30 days, it went up to $2 and some cents. If you look in the history, I was part of that ride. And I stayed in because I didn't get out. I didn't know much of anything about trading, whatever. And they came back down, and it was just like, whatever. But, but Saudi Arabia and the other parts of the world outside the US has been using XRP as a use case, big money forever, right? Forever. So, that's why I've chosen, because it's not influenced by the current US system, because cryptocurrency is a global market, right? But the big money it's too small. It's a $1 trillion market, right? It's too small. So the US by itself, our hedge fund people, the big money in the US that is subject and hypersensitive to regulations and the SEC, even mentioning things, cause the dips and things in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Money flowing in and out. XRP is kind of outside that cycle and outside that circle. So it's kind of cool. So that's why I'm playing with it with the bots. And anyway, so let's get into that. And I got 7.5% ROI in 21 days, so that's not bad. But it's not as good as some of the stuff I'm going to show you here a little bit later. So let's go and do a little training. And I have a spreadsheet here. This might be kind of hard if you're on a cell phone. So just come back. Just come back. I think come back on YouTube because I think they auto caption it, and then you can like the stuff that you're not interested in. I think they auto index it and all sorts of cool stuff. So this is about this is a spreadsheet that I created because I work for a living. I'm part of a Lotto pool at my work, and I call this is about owning your numbers. Okay, and let's get into this a little bit. So this is expand a little bit. A lot of folks don't know how to give. A lot of folks don't know what to do if they won $1 billion. I think I have $1 billion, and here's a jackpot, right? And oddly enough, that let's use an example. It went to 2 billion, 2 billion, right? Was it 2.2 billion? I think it was $2 billion. It was the big lotto that was in the news, and then there's this big controversy. Someone stole his ticket and things like that. So let's use this as a model to talk about owning your number. So what does owning your number mean? What do I mean by that? It means like, what does it cost for you to live now? And what is it going to cost to live the life of your dreams? Okay. So pay attention if you're younger and you're trying to figure out your trajectory. If you're younger, I would recommend that you maybe go listen to the audiobooks Millionaire Fastlane and by MJ DeMarco, and his latest release of that book called Unscripted, Breaking Free from the Rat Race, something like that. It's him stepping into story form. But he's got this thing about figure out what your numbers are. Most people don't know what their numbers are. So, my lotto pool, right? So let's look at this. Depending on what state you live in, there's some taxes. I use Lottery USA in here to get this figure 45%. It may be higher. You can put in 50%. Figure 50%. Whatever. You can actually dial it in. If I'm a kind of a geek and an analyst type, so I will like dial it in. But what is it? So $2.2 billion jackpot, your total net at 50% of, let's say half. It's actually less than that. So, it really, if you live in Oregon, or if you live in California, it's just whatever the federal max is. So, whatever it is. Not every state taxes lottery winnings. I personally think they ought to just give it to you without taxing you on it. It's a capital gains, right? They should tax you. Well, I guess they should tax you on what your income tax bracket is. Someone should sue them over that. You want to know why billionaires don't pay taxes? Because they don't have jobs. They're in a zero income tax bracket. Wasn't that a brilliant stroke of genius on their part on how to get out of that? It's a moral ethical thing for me because is that good stewardship? You have more money than you know what to do with, and so therefore you need more. And meanwhile, the burden of running roads, the military, all these socialist things that we all enjoyed in modern society, right? All little people are paying for it, and the people who it's actually being protected by it aren't even participating much. Maybe their companies are. Maybe that's how they justify it. But there was a time when their taxes were like 97%, and we were building hospitals and roads and our individual income taxes. A human being you could have a house and 5 or 6 kids, and the stay-at-home mom thing without having to have a side gig. It was the Brady Bunch model, right? Could work on minimum wage. Yeah, minimum wage wasn't designed for teenagers. It was designed for adults to have a life. Now, if we wanted to have a mentorship getting started in life while you're living at home wage, that's cool too, right? But we don't. We're being lied to, we're being manipulated, and I wish information fraud was against the law, but it's not. It used to be, but it's not. I'll share some of my opinions. Um, if a political person during his resume and interviewing process campaign is lying, right? I would be prosecuted. You would be prosecuted, probably a felony, right, for lying on a resume, right? We're not prosecuting these people. I don't care which side of the aisle. Now, there's little fudging and things, and maybe you're overstating your credentials. That's kind of a thing, right? But we have people bold-facing lying, right? We have people citing things that it's information fraud, it's propaganda, but it's an interviewing process when they're campaigning. The moment we find out that we've been lied to, they should be immediately if you were working for any company or the government as an employee, right? If they found out that you lied, your security accesses would be shut down within minutes. You would be hauled into a meeting and you'd be under investigation, or you would be relegated to work where you cannot cause any harm while you're being investigated. And depending on what you did in the lying process, you might be sitting in a jail zone cell pending arraignment. The fact that we have zero accountability to our elected leaders when they lie to us during their job interviewing process, or we find out that they have committed crimes while in office, and we are unable to put a stop to their power, is a problem that we have in the United States, and it's being exploited by our enemies. Okay. So I got something here. Oh, first chat message, it says Facebook user. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's Cindy. I'm on a bunch of different platforms here. So this is cool. I'm just going to keep going. There's an overlay option, but the thing is, if I do the overlay option, it messes things up. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep going. So thank you. Shout out. Thumbs up. Let me go back over here. All right. So owning your own numbers. All I want from my politicians is for them to honor their platforms, but more importantly, their loyalty needs to be to their oath of office, right? To take an oath, right? And I don't see either. I see very few, regardless of the side they are on, owning their oath of office. It's like it's this thing that they say, but the words are meaningless to them, unless they have a reason for political reasons. But they're just very seldom are willing to take a stand, because the moment they're elected to office, they should not be representing their party. They should be representing their constituents, the constituents. That's including the other side, includes everybody, right? And I don't see them doing that. And they have a first duty to the core foundations, which is our Constitution, which includes civil rights, human rights, the Bill of Rights, all that stuff. I don't want just one or two of my rights. I want all of my rights. You know what the unalienable rights are? It's a very simple thing. If you want to cut through the crap, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness are certain God-given unalienable rights. I'm going to remove the word men from that because I believe that meant all. The reason why the word men came up is because that was their culture. If they were rewriting that today, they would agree with me and we could argue about it, but you would lose because they meant all. Because women are not slaves. They deserve equal pay for equal work. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Listen, when you lose your rights, everyone will understand this. Everyone will understand this. Someone breaks into my house right now, they're infringing on my rights. The right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They're trying to take away my happiness, right? They're trying to rob me, right? They might be armed. They might be willing to hurt me or kill me or a family member, right? I don't know. What I do know is they violated the sanctity of my home, right? That's liberty, right? Life, liberty, right? Unwarranted search and seizure, all this stuff, right? That's your liberty. That's freedom, right? They have infringed it the moment they try to break into my house. You know what I have the right to do? I have a right to take away their freedoms the moment they do that. That is the deciding moment, right? I have the right to take their life because they threaten mine. If they're here to steal from me, right? They lose their what? Their freedoms and liberty. They go to jail. They get prosecuted as a criminal, right? If you ever want to know the moral moment of how all law and justice should function, it's right in our Constitution. And every single person elected into power that takes that oath, every single member of the military who takes an oath to uphold the Constitution, that is what you are upholding. There's no argument here, right? So when you're trying to pass laws that infringe upon the rights of another person or sentient being, right? It doesn't say U.S. citizens have these rights. It says all. Most people understand all. So when you separate kids at the border from their parents, you've just committed a war crime, even though we may or may not be at war, right? That was a crime. We all know it was a crime. Criminals have not been prosecuted. Every single employee that followed those orders committed a criminal act. They're complicit with a crime. Very simple. None of this is complicated, right? Passing laws or fighting for laws that infringe upon the rights of somebody else that is not hurting you, is not hurting the public good. That's where the argument comes in, right? Individual freedoms is what that you're taking an oath to. And those individual freedoms are now made subject to why we don't let you build a nuclear bomb in your garage, right? Public good, right? It's why we don't want a typhoid Mary situation. I know it's a touchy subject, right? But, if someone's highly infectious and going around and can infect all their neighbors, we can argue about the source, whatever, resolution, all the conspiracy theories. But let's get to the principle. That person needs to be quarantined, right? Until we have a solution to make it safe for the world, the community, right? So their freedoms are being infringed for the greater good of all, right? Not a criminal, right? Not a criminal, right? But knowing that they have an infectious disease and not being willing to voluntarily isolate, they're now threatening their neighbors with the ability to kill more people than if they went out with a loaded semi-automatic weapon with an intention to kill people. Most people don't think about it because they're too busy in the argument. But the principle is what we should be loyal to, not the argument, not the party, the principle. And what's the biggest principle we all know, no matter what your religious belief system or ideology is? Do unto others as you have others do unto you, right? If you knew that you had something that could kill millions and millions of people, would you not want to be isolated? Of course, it's golden rule stuff. Every culture going pre-epoch has this rule. That's what you should be loyal to. So whatever the name of deity is that you may be worshiping or not, you understand this rule, right? But that principle and that rule should influence your governance, your justice system, your parenting, your relationships in your home, and your neighbor, and your enemy, and anyone you don't understand that you disagree with. If someone disagreed with you, how would you want to be treated? Would you want to be jailed? No. Would you want someone who disagrees with the fact that you have a long beard passing laws to outlaw your long beard because they believe that people who have long beards are evil? Would you want to be treated that way? No. Whoever you are, you have a certain color eyes, whatever it is. There's no yeah buts here. If you're supporting things that infringe upon the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of others, right? What if I woke up today and I thought it'd be kind of cool to wear a dress? Hot topic today. Or a utilikilt. a kilt, which is basically a dress for men, right? Um, that's me. That's my business, right? Does it harm you if I walk outside? Well, I don't want to see it. Well, great. I get you don't want to see it, but is it harming you? Is it interfering with your rights? Well, I can't pursue happiness if you're wearing a dress, David. Well, that's a little arrogant, isn't it? No. See, we can draw lines here, right? We do have the right to, create our society and things like that and create rules, right? We've established marital age as age 18, although we have child marriages in America, right? Because biblically it was what, 12 or 13, right? Different parts of the world, right? But we've established that as in our governance, right? So we live under those rules, right? And that's okay too, right? Why? Because we want to protect the rights of a 12 or 13-year-old who hasn't had enough life experience to make that decision. We're protecting their rights for their future. Very, very simple. I know it's philosophy. It's boring. When Borders went out of business, I went in there. The last books that were to be sold and they never got sold were on philosophy. So I know I'll never become a multimillionaire teaching philosophy and principles. But if you're ever wondering life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and why that's important and how to determine things, all I want from any politician is to be loyal to that first, not your party, not your religion, not your ideology, not your name of whatever your deity is, but the principle that all that supposedly represents. And that's our biggest problem, in my opinion. All right, so let's get back to this calculator about owning your numbers. So this is my Lotto calculator that I created where I work years ago, and I've adopted and grown it. So I'm going to use the $2.2 billion lottery as an example. You know what's kind of cool? I spent a day trying to buy a calculator that had a comma in it because I was going nuts trying to run numbers without a comma. I mean, look at this. I mean, even in here, right? I tried to enter the number. Let me click on it. If you can see this, that's $2.2 billion, but does it look like 2 billion? But if I put commas in there, even in a spreadsheet, it's hard. The only calculator I know of, shout out to HP, thank you, is the HP2 business calculator, has commas, or their business series calculators. We're not even allowed to think big. Serious. It's crazy. So, tax bracket stuff, I'm making this available to Patreon subscribers. That's cool. And there's nothing there for you right now other than my welcome letter. I have my first Patreon subscriber, so that's cool. You're supporting this, and I'm going to be adding content. So I usually have to work out the spreadsheets till I like them, and then I make them available. Friends and families have had this available for several years now. But this is about figuring out where are you now. So let's go through it. So what's at the top here? This is kind of like, you know, you ever know? Well, I'm going to help you. Should you buy a lottery ticket? Well, how much money do you make? Let's say you make $4,000 a month. How much is someone that makes minimum wage? What is minimum wage anyway? I should bring up Chat GBT and Habitat, but what is it? I have my little calculator. I would shout out to Google, but hold on. Let's just say it's $15 an hour, and I know it's not. It's half that, isn't it? $7.50. Whatever it is, let's just use 15 as a model because that's what everyone's going to. Maybe someday we'll get there. That's 15. So it's 8 hours a day. It's $120 a day times 5 days a week times 52 weeks. $31,200 divided by 12 months, $2,600. So let's say your current revenue is $2,600. Now, what are these APRs here? So what is the safest investment that we know of in the world today? One where you don't have to, well, you probably need to now, but where you don't have to worry about taxes and the complications and tracking expenses, all sorts of stuff. What is the ultimate? The ultimate is tax-free municipal bonds in the United States, and then you would diversify to wherever you live in the world, whatever is tax-free that you can invest in your world. And if you were to bring up what are the average rates of tax-free municipal bonds, I think they're around 7% right now, but they've been as low as 3%. So this is worst case scenario planning, right? So you put in, $2,600 APRs. You need $1,040,000 to create that cash flow. At 4%, it's $780,000. At 5%, it's $624,000. You're probably a lot closer to retirement than you think you are. And at 2%, it's kind of cute. I I haven't done this since this, so I have to remember how to use this. Custom APR, 2%. I have here. You need $1,560,000 net, right, in order to um, get that cash flow. So that's what this is about. I'm going to put this back to 4,000. And because over here, I have a thing here called custom. So I'm going to put that at 2,600 as the default. A lot of folks, there's first wages. What is $4,000 a month work out to be? That's $48,000. So somewhere between $40,000 and $48,000 is a lot of folks where they're working at. I don't know what the averages are. It's not the averages that our politicians think. We average 300 and some $1,000 a year is our average wages out here. And it's like, no, I don't know who you're talking about. Maybe in San Francisco. I don't know where they're getting their data from. So down here is a different part of the calculator. This is about knowing your numbers. Oh, I'm not done. I'm sorry. So if you're making $4,000 a year, it will be an upgrade to your life. Well, maybe 10,000. During Y2K, I was making 10 grand. I was actually making more than that. Plus, I had a business on the side gig. Well, the more money you make, the more money you have to have working for you in order to replace your income, right? So here's what you can literally look up with this spreadsheet, put in your numbers now, ask yourself, well, like right now, Diane and I live in a townhouse and we just received notice. Our lease is coming up. We're thinking about relocating anyway. We live in Oregon. But last year we had just about a 10% increase in our rent. And this year it's going to be just under 15. So in 13 months, we're having a 25% increase in our cost of living just with rent. This is happening to everybody. And I don't live in Portland. They've had 100% increase and stuff like that. Well, this is where you can figure out, well, what would you need, right? So owning your numbers is about owning your numbers. A lot of folks, we're so busy just trying to survive, we don't take the time to own our numbers, and we don't really see what it really takes. Now, to be honest with you, what I did is I took a look at where I was wasting money, and I just cleaned it up, and I compensated for that, so it's no big deal. But a lot of folks, I see people, I got a call from a friend of mine. His name's Brian. He's cool. I'll talk about him. He's my highly educated pig farmer friend. And, we've known each other since 1998. Long story there. I'm not going to get into that story, but he called me. I got off at work and he asked me if I'd come home, help feed the homeless. It was a couple years ago, pre-COVID. And in Portland, along the Springwater Trail, there were all these people that were homeless camping out there. It's worse today, but this was a big thing back then. So I showed up there and he'd been spending the day making meals and whatever. And it's a long story there. And I helped him clean up and stuff. And I talked and we were interviewing homeless people there. And the vast majority of them were working full time, homeless. They just couldn't afford rent anymore, living out of their cars. And they were like creating little communities of homeless people. So, it's crazy and not bad people. And it really pisses me off when I hear about people talking about the homeless people and they're just lazy, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, they're not. Some of them might be, but the vast majority are not. And I've got so many stories with homeless people. I'll share one, and I'll get back to the spreadsheet. So I remember I was a younger person. And I was wearing a suit and tie and a briefcase and stuff. And I came across this very large, looked like a linebacker kind of person. He was a person of color. And he looked at me and I smiled at him and I was walking by. He says, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I just want you to know I'm not going to rob you." And I looked at him and I'm looking up at him. And I said, "Well, good. I don't want to be robbed today." I said, "What's up? How can I help?" It's kind of funny that those words, "How can I help," is like in New Amsterdam. I just love the language of that. And I just want you to know I'm not going to rob you. And I said, "Well, that's okay, whatever." And he explained to me he needed some money. I said, "Well, let me see." And I pulled out I'm just totally oblivious how naive I am. in my world. I pull out my wallet and I open it and I had no money. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I usually carry some money with me to give out to homeless folks, or when things present, if I'm inspired. I have a whole process for when to give and when not to give, and that's part of the POTU thing. And I look at it and I said, dude, I don't have any money, but there's a bank machine up over here. And the guy just started bawling. He says, man, you just gave me the greatest gift. He says, I've been homeless for like 3 months or whatever, and everyone's afraid of me. And I don't even know how to talk to anyone anymore. I says, well, great. Let's go to a bank machine and let me get you some money, right? And he refused. He refused. Imagine a homeless person refusing you going to a bank machine to get him at least $20. That's the minute you can pull out of the machine. And he was just bawling. And I said, dude, it's okay. Things will get better. And he says, can I hug you? I says, yeah. And he said, I'm not going to rob you. I said, not. And we hugged. And this guy was sobbing. I mean, I'm this little dude. I'm like, and I held him, and he just thanked me. And he says, I just needed to know that I still had value as a human being. And you gave that to me, sir. I said, dude, thank you. I wish you well. And I hope he's doing all right. I hope he tunes into this because I could show him how to turn $5 into $1 million in reality. And I'm going to get to that part of this. I've done it before. There was like a 2-hour thing I did on Sunday morning. No, yeah, Sunday morning between 1 and 3 a.m. It should be here somewhere. I actually go a deep dive into the spreadsheets, so I don't have to redo that today. But this is new. This is something I haven't done before, at least that I can remember with the long COVID stuff. All right, so that's what this is for: is figuring out where you're at, where you want to go, what's your dream. So I've done different types of business, MLM, things like that. Yeah, throughout my life, and we always used to do dream building, but I was a little different because I would like last time I did this was with a young couple in their early 20s, just getting started. What's it going to cost to have children? Well, it's $300,000 a kid, a little bit more expensive for the girls, right? So you can factor this in into throughout the life, and I would actually do these numbers because it's usually too boring for people to do by themselves, right? I have a spreadsheet for this, by the way, now called, find out where you're at. It's a 3-part thing. It's how I used to do consulting. Like what's it's probably going to cost. Here's what it's probably going to be, and then here's a home run. Anyway, I will always present 3 scenarios. And that's what this is about, right? So here's where you are now. Here would be a nice upgrade that's believable to you because that's important. And then what's your dream, right? I'll tell you, if you haven't put a number to it, you won't see how close you are to it. You know what it boils down to? This young couple, they want to have like 3 kids and the cars and the vacation homes, possible college for themselves, retirement accounts, the whole 9 are maxing it all out. We sat down, spent 3 hours, and it ended up being $28,000 a month. This was about 13, 14 years ago, last time I did this calculation. And it keeps going up. It used to be like 15,000. It was 20. It was 20,000. And I think right now, probably if you were to run the numbers on your life right now, it'd probably be somewhere between $30,000 and $37,000, my guess. So I just rounded up to 50. You know what's interesting about $50,000 a month? That is the number. The last time I read this, I don't know if he's still making it, but the CEO of Costco refused to accept any more than $600,000 a year, right? And I have a big beef with CEOs. You are an employee. I hope I just changed the color or something. I didn't want to do that. You're supposed to, the majority of the money is supposed to go to the stockholders, not to you. So I don't get these $1 million a month, people making millions of dollars a minute for being an employee of a corporation. I don't get it. I personally don't get it. I think it's wrong. It's moral and ethically wrong. And there's arrogance there, and there's all sorts of other sort of stuff. So you know what? I personally don't believe any employee should be making more than $50,000 a month. What's their dream, right? If you have a dream that costs you more than that, and you have to spend $50,000 on art just to spend your money, then that's fine. I don't mind rich people being rich. I do mind it that you figured out how to do it tax free. Well, I have to pay 30-40% taxes between state and federal income tax, where you aren't paying any because you don't have income tax. That's how they get away with not paying any income tax, because they don't have an income. They sell stock or they have capital gains, right? And their capital gains tax rate is their income tax rate. If they don't have a job, it's 0. The only other people I know that have a 0 income tax rate are homeless people who don't receive more than $600 of unemployment or something like that. They're in a 0 tax bracket too, which is why they should be eating up crypto and trading. If I were to become homeless, I thought about it. I've joked about this. I was like, well, what I should do is I just go out and sit there with my cardboard sign, have Wi-Fi, and then I would just trade high, 100x, 200x trading and just beg for money in the zero tax bracket because it's all capital gains. Kind of cool. I don't know about state laws, and those laws can change with an act of Congress, right? So, I'm not giving advice. I already did my disclaimer. I'm just sharing my opinion. So if you want to know how they got away with that, when you read about Warren Buffett saying, no, my secretary pays more income tax than I do, it's because he doesn't have an income. Yeah, we've been checkmated, us little people. And the solution is not pitchforks. It's not it's not pitchforks and torches. That's not the solution. Our country is too big for that. That works in Europe and France and because everyone can show up and just like everyone, all the rich people go, oh shit, we pissed them off. We pissed it off the little people. The peasants are coming for us. Yeah. Well, we can do that in isolated little thing. We can march, but it's not going to work. You're not going to take over the US government. If you don't understand why or how that works, everyone who thinks that way, go watch Bo of the Fifth Column. He's got a great channel. He's got a beard. He's a younger guy, one of the best investigative journalists I've ever met. Great channel, but he explains why no one's going to conquer the U.S., right? What it would take to conquer the U.S. He runs the numbers. He's just brilliant. So I don't have to share that. Just go watch his channel. I'm a subscriber and a Patreon member of his. He's just brilliant. If you want to know where I go for my news. The other stuff going on here, let's get into it. So we figure this out. What's your dream? Let's explore what's possible. Once you know what your dream lifestyle is, what happens if you win the $2.2 billion lottery? This is a question I did. Let me tell you what Di and I were driving along the coast of Oregon, and we were seeing all these businesses that needed money, right? And this is how a peasant-minded billionaire thinks. I need an ROI. I need zero risk. I need this. I need that. I'm afraid. I need to influence laws to make sure that no one can interrupt my business for which I have created generational wealth and I'll never have to work again for next 100,000 generations, but I need to protect it because I'm afraid. And all of the billionaires that I know think that way, including Elon to a certain extent. Because what aren't they doing with their money? We have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars doing absolutely nothing in our world. Tens of trillions. I don't know what it is. Why aren't we just writing off the debt to our governments? There's so much we could be doing that we're not doing because we have been born and raised in fear and scarcity. And then some of us become very aggressive when we learn how to be narcissistic sociopaths, which is almost a requirement to go from zero, nothing to something. It's exploitative, right? Okay, right. You've arrived. Great. Bezos, Amazon. I love Amazon. It's cool. If you hate Amazon, I get it. But what's he doing with his money? Well, not much. No stewardship. We don't teach it. We have the word, right? Most likely there's a 72% chance that their belief system they're born and raised in was probably some version of Christianity. And there's a 92% that was some kind of Abrahamic religious belief system. And all those belief systems, right? Islam, Judaism, Christianity, whatever the version is, right? They have this tithing concept, right? But there's a bigger concept. It's called stewardship. I'm not seeing it. And that's my big beef. Oh, David, that sounds like you're a socialist. No, that's a whole nother conversation. I just expect people that have that level of power to use it to make our world a better place. And instead, we're just look around what we're dealing with. We're worried about our extinction, right? From multiple vectors, right? So once you know what your number is, all right, my dream lifestyle is 50,000. Well, Di and I were driving along the coast. I'll finish that story. So let's just say, well, let's just double it just to be safe. Because we're still peasants, right? Peasant minded. We're born and raised that way. You may never outgrow it, but you can become loyal to the principle. So I need $100,000 a month to be totally safe for the rest of my life, right? I don't need that much money, by the way, but let's just say I did. Oh, I had it factored in here. So I win the $2.2 billion lottery. I have 1.2 after taxes, right? Whatever it is. And the best I can do, because of whatever it is maybe 3% APR to protect the principal. Now, I'm not giving the money away. I'm not going to tithe. I'm not going to take 10% of that one and just give it away to other peasants. That's irresponsible. I'm explaining why. I'm actually writing a book like, Are You Ready to Be a Billionaire? And you're going to get it here. You're going to get it for free. Let me explain to you why I wouldn't do it that way, right? Because you can do better, right? Why limit yourself? Okay. You have been bestowed stewardship. Mr. Billionaire, if you're listening, right? The new guy down in California that's getting this $1.2 billion, message is for you. And this is for you, anyone who's watching this, if you get this win. This is for Jeff Bezos. This is for anybody that has a net worth of over $10 million, which allows you to be a qualified investor. Even you can go on Binance and buy and sell crypto. The rest of us, we are financially discriminated against based on our financial status. That's discrimination. It violates life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and you should fight for it. You should write in and complain about it. It was that way before I was born. I'm not going to get into that. So, $100,000 a month. I'll bet you that takes care of everything, a dream lifestyle. Let me get back to the story. So we ran the numbers. I think that's why that 1 billion, because that's what it was when we were driving to the coast. At 3%, this is a month. A month. A month. My needs are $100,000 a month. All of my dreams. Whatever yours is. Let's say it was $1 million a month. Doesn't matter. Most likely you'd end up having 9%. In reality, let's change this to 7. It's probably, you could probably reliably get 7% easy doing municipal bond stuff. Now, you probably, when you win this kind of money, you probably end up having a CPA, but you need to know about money in order to know if you're being screwed or not. Otherwise, you're going to have like the Lotto lawyer person out of New York rob you, like a lot of Lotto millionaires were robbed. I'm glad he's going to jail, but these people are never going to get their money back. Why? Because they didn't know their numbers. They weren't empowered. They were thinking like peasants, and they did what peasants were trained to do. And I'm all about teaching you not to be a peasant. That's what DDTC is about. POTU, POTU, Path of the Unlimited, is to teach you about things you already know and tell you it's okay for you to be loyal to those things. So you can sort out like, oh, this guy that I'm listening to is a really nice person, but he's full of shit, or she's full of shit. That's wrong, morally and ethically, based on the principle I already accepted are where it's at. And that's what that's about. And that will impact your relationships. It'll impact your career. It'll impact how you manage money if you have a windfall. It'll impact you deciding you'll have a reason to actually choose to become healthy, because what good is wealth if you don't have health? That's what this is about. Sorry for that segue. You have to get used to it. That's kind of me right now. I haven't been able to hold attention for about 8 years since I had a concussion, and that's a whole other story for another time. I was going after solving domestic violence in the United States at the time. I needed to put together $200 million. And then within 2 days after the funding started coming in, I got rear-ended and I lost my brain, literally. It was kind of crazy. Long recovery. And then COVID happened. So that, anyway, if you want to know the backstory, there's the quick version. So somewhere between $3 million and $7 million a month is your stewardship responsibility. Your dreams are fulfilled. You're not touching your principal. There's your tithe. You're putting that money to work and for good causes. You have to figure that out. Right? That's why it really pisses me off when I hear about, the founders pledge, we're going to give away our billions and billions of dollars so that when we die, we've given it all away. Great. You're giving it all away to foundations and peasants that are going to protect it because they're fear-minded things. They're not really doing much of anything. Great. I'm sure that some educational institution, which is now being replaced by adaptive AI, is going to need those billions and billions of dollars for perpetuity, and it's just crazy. It's irresponsible. Why aren't you training your children to become good stewards? Right? I mean, I've watched Game of Thrones. I've seen what happens. The inheritance of power, blah blah blah. You know what? we do have a ruling elite, right? And I expect the ruling elite to teach their children to be good leaders and teach these principles of stewardship so that when they inherit their billions of dollars, they actually do something with it besides hookers and cocaine and an ongoing life thing of, look, I'm rich and here I'm an influencer on Instagram kind of shit. I mean, seriously, they could be doing better. Shout out to Kim Kardashian for wanting to go to law school, by the way. I used to criticize that, whatever. I saw the original video. It's like, I got where she's here. She's an influencer now. She's a power by she's starting to like maybe do something a little bit. Matthew McConaughey, another person, he's actually using his position of power to influence and things like that. I wish more people who had fame and fortune would actually get in tune with principles to make our world a better place and then teach us all from that place. We all can't become Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? We can't become, you know what I mean? But we can become influencers in our own little world. And that's kind of what my mission is to train you to do that because I can't change our world myself. I want all the billionaires to watch this segment right here, right now, and just say, oh, wow, I have $100 billion. I'm Jeff Bezos. I'm whatever. I shouldn't be giving this away. I should be putting that money to work safely, simplify my life, live the life of my dreams, and then spend my life in stewardship. And then you can sleep good at night. You still can have the hood ornament kind of girl. I don't know her, so, but rich guys, all that colloquial stuff. It's a thing, right? And rich girls, they become the whatever. We have all these things and we argue about it and we hate them and we love them and whatever, as long as they're not hurting other people and they're making the world a better place. And I wish that that's what would happen. And Putin's a great example. Here's a billionaire, super powerful. And what's he doing? He's following a religious directive from an ancient religion that says we want that piece of land back. I'm going to just get a little religious note here. No matter who you are, if you believe in something, a divine, whatever, that divine already owns it all. If you believe that something created all this and the multiple universes, all that unlimitedness, right, is not worried about any country owning a little piece of property because he already owns the planet. Doesn't need your money, doesn't need no more warriors, doesn't need to save anything. Already owns it all. But all these belief systems does burden us with the concept of stewardship. Why we haven't figured that out? Golden rule, we all have it. We're not living it. We haven't mastered it. Until we have all this arguing and fighting and killing over religious principles, mine is the right name, is bullshit. Personally, sorry, that pisses you off, offends you. Someone needs to deliver the message. Your God already owns it all. Accept that. So find your responsibility within that paradigm of, since the deity doesn't need anything, then what am I supposed to do? Well, maybe you're supposed to live because you've got life and that's your blessing. And maybe if you want to have a life's purpose, figure out what you can do to make the world a bit better place. I went to a wake of a lady that just spent her ending 20 years in retirement at a coffee shop, and people came to her advice. She out of Seattle. She found purpose. That's good enough. Wasn't a billionaire, wasn't a multimillionaire. It was a great story. I loved that story. I don't even remember her name. I do remember the lemon bars at the wake. I was a guest, and I thought that was the most impressive thing hearing about her life. It's like, oh, she sat in a coffee shop, and she found purpose. Homeless people can find purpose. Anyone can find purpose, but we don't know that is a thing, right? I see people retire with no purpose, and they wither and die. I could share with heartbreaking stories about that. I have a friend who's looking at retirement, and I'm begging him to figure out what he's going to do. I'm telling him, I'm going to set him up with a road and a stream deck and this sort of thing and streaming. And I just want him to just wake up every day and just do the weather like he does at work. He's the best weatherman on the planet, and just get a following on YouTube or something. And he'll have a purpose. It's something he loves. He wants to win the big lotto, by the way. Shout out to Richard, wherever you're at. Hope you're taking care of yourself out there. All right. Can't wait to see him again. Just a wonderful man. So back to my story. I got segued. Diana and I were looking at all these businesses and they needed new signs. We stayed at a hotel and the hotel was falling apart. And what if we could have just I got somewhere between $3 and $7 million I need to spend this month. All of it. Because I don't need to build up $1.2 billion, right? But this cash flow that I'm being a good steward, managing, making my money work for me, right? I'm done, right? Putting it to work to make our world a better place. So I'm driving along. I see this need, right? What if my life's purpose from that moment forward is to see these needs and solve those problems? Yeah. Well, yeah, one of the first things you do, David, is you learn to say no to yourself, right? Well, you have a plan. Discretionary spending. Yeah, you should have a plan for it. You don't have a plan, you're going to blow it all. 70% of big lotto winners are worse off after 5 years. Why? Because they didn't watch this video. Well, what about all your friends and family? I have a friend who says, well, the first thing you need, also all your relatives are going to come for your money. You're going to find out you have relatives you never knew existed. And this is true. And you got to learn to say no to them. Give them nothing, absolutely nothing. I'm like, dude, I spent all my life not being able to help my friends and relatives. And the last thing I want to do once I have the money is start telling them, oh no, that's not how I give anyway. Let me teach you this. You want to know how to give? This is so simple. You're agonized over stuff. I'm gonna solve all of your agony. Okay. So whoever you are, whether you're a homeless person or you're a billionaire, things cross your path. And I know the more money you have, people will seek you out because we have more needs than we have money to deal with. Because we've created a culture that actually manufactures poverty and need. So you got to do whatever you do for your own sanity, right? But trust that things that actually do need your attention will cross your path. And what is your job? When something presents to you, and this happens to me while I'm on Facebook or whatever, driving down the street, um, something will catch your attention. Okay. It presents to you. So when something presents to you, you ask yourself in internal dialogue, you can say it out loud, I noticed this. You noticed it. That's the first part of the process. You noticed it. Okay. The second part of the process is you ask yourself, what can I do about this? And sometimes it's not money. Maybe it's a piece of advice. Maybe it's saying a kind word. Maybe it's noticing something else. Maybe it's buying something, whatever it is, giving advice. Or maybe you're like, man, there's absolutely nothing I can do for this. It's beyond me. There's causes that cross my path and it breaks my heart because there's nothing I can do about it. I reached that point. I asked myself, okay, I noticed this. Oh, can I do anything about it? No, I have to move on. Sorry. There's wars and things and poverty and things. I don't have the resources. I could be a trillionaire and I could blow all the resources and it wouldn't solve the problem. But at that level of empowerment, I could start creating systems of things that might solve the problem over time. Because you can think differently when you have $1.2 billion, right? The first chapter of my book is How Do I Know That There Is No God? And it's just for fun. It's a satire thing, and it's to get shocking headlines, right? And it's because I didn't win the $2.2 billion because I don't think anybody that won had a better plan than I do. Anyway, I know it's arrogance, and I got that. It's cool. I have fun with it. So it's stewardship. So getting back to the process, but let's say you do have $1 or $2 in your wallet, or $20 or $100 or whatever it is, and you're inspired to give it away, right? That goes, well, what am I, am I inspired to do anything about this? Yes, I could do something about, but am I inspired to do anything about this? Now, for those of you that are religious or spiritual or whatever that is in your system, right? And if you're an atheist, just hang out with me, okay? I respect everything. So POTU, Path Unlimited, includes everybody. So this is where you listen to that inner voice. Now, biblically, right? And there's something, one of the hardest things is listening to that voice because there's usually like 100,000 TV sets on different channels inside of a brain. You ever try to meditate? If you're a meditator, I get it. It's almost, you got this, right? It took me like 5 weeks to get to quietness inside of my head. I woke up one day and it was quiet. And I could ask myself, and sometimes the answer is a feeling. It's not necessarily, I wish it was a voice. I wish it would be an angel materializing to give me direction. And it's usually just my voice, or it's just total silence. And then I get a sensation of what is right or wrong to do. But anyway, you get to that point where you ask, right? You want to know where the 5-part divinity and truth filter is? I'll mention it. Came from it came from me closing the door, playing some soft music, playing some incense, lighting a candle, notepad, and saying, "Okay, I want to figure out. I'm tired of being lied to. I'm tired of figuring out that I've been cheated. I just want to be able to figure it out. I want to be able to navigate instantly if something's true or false, religiously, biblically, about divine things. I need a filter." And over time, I started receiving insights, and I developed a 5-part divinity truth filter. Then I went out to like 20 or 30 different belief systems, including the ones that are forbidden, to see, does this make any sense to you? And every single one of them, including all the ones that including atheists, said, wow. The, and the atheists were like, well, if a divine did exist, then yes, it's a process. And that served me. It's helped me get some clarity. So then you take action. And there's a process that'll give you peace of mind, even if you have little or nothing to give. Sometimes what you have to give, it was an exercise way back in the day I had, is I would never end my day unless I went out and gave someone a sincere compliment. I had no money at the time. It was something I read somewhere, and I thought, I like that idea. I do that throughout my day, all the day, wherever I am, for decades now. But I remember once, it's like, oh shoot. It's like 1 a.m. It's like, oh, I didn't get it done. There was a convenience store. I got up, went out to the convenience store. There was this person, and I went and I was shopping around, and I'm like, oh man, it has to be a sincere compliment. I had standards around this, not just a compliment. It had to be sincere. And then I just realized that this tattooed person that had all sorts of body piercings, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I realized that this person had some of the best hair, well-groomed, taken care of. Obviously, from where I was at the time, not my options, right? But I went up to him and said, "Dude, man, I just have to what do you use for conditioner? Because you've got the best hair I've ever seen." And this person spent 15 minutes telling me about their hair, and they had a process, and they found the best products and whatever it was and things like that. I mean, this person could have been an influencer today, but I mean, I made their day just using them, and anyway, I've been doing it ever since. I was sold on that process. So if you're ever down and out and life is horrible, there's a process for you. But this is what I want in terms of stewardship. This is how you decide to give or not to give. Now, if you're a billionaire, you need to hire it out. You need to have a foundation. So what do? You teach your staff your core operating principles. But for me, Di and I were talking about, we could that business probably only needs, probably $50,000 to redo their signage. Let's give them another $50,000 of operating capital, and let's pay off all their debts. And we could probably do that all for maybe under $200,000. We spent the afternoon dreaming about winning the $2.2 billion lottery. I suggest you do that too. Why not? Have a plan for it before you get it. I don't think you can really get it unless you have a plan for it, which is why I'm kind of annoyed with people who have no plan for it. 70% of people who become multimillionaires at that level or whatever, they should not be afraid. They've been empowered. They just don't know how to not be afraid. And that's kind of that's where I figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to teach this stuff. And the spreadsheet is it's a part of it. It seems complicated. I want to simplify it. Um, but yeah, you can put it in here. We can change the APRs here. We can change the numbers here. Let's say it's only $100 million lottery, $100,000 lottery. So don't need 3 more zeros. So you'd get $55 million. So 3%, $137,500 a month. So at $50,000, let's say you're at that lifestyle thing, you double it. So you have $37,500 to give away every month for stewardship forever. Why not? And if it's at 7% or whatever, you do have a better month, stewardship, giving, and you'll feel good about it. Yeah. Pay off all your relatives, moms, all that stuff, their debts, throw a party, blah, blah, blah. Have a budget for it, right? But have the budget. Don't give this away. You need to protect your net, right? and put it to work for you. But what you give away and you can work with is the cash flow. That's what being a good steward is. There's a principle. If you didn't know what it was, there it is. All right. And this is the spreadsheet that I use for when I'm dreaming. And I'll tell you, if we're back up to the $2.2 billion thing, let's do that. 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 billion. Oh, that's 22 billion. That's even better, but that's all right. See, without having a comma, these big numbers are hard. There's $2.2 billion, right? When you hear about someone's $100 billion or, Elon, he's lost $60 billion in net worth because the stock market took a thing of like, all right, Elon, I get you want to go to the Mars, but what are you doing to help everybody? Oh, I get the Ukraine Starlink thing. Yeah, well, the Starlink thing's costing us, $10 million a month to keep that open. We can't keep doing that. $10 million a month. You have 100. No, you can actually probably keep that going. Probably tax write-off. Anyway, so when you start thinking in these larger numbers, you can start looking out at those who have this wealth and just say, they do need to learn stewardship. And if you're someone who knows somebody, that's there, they're a family member and you can influence them, have this conversation. Come back here to say, what do you think about this dude? He's just a dude, but I kind of like that idea of his, right? All right, so there's that spreadsheet. Let's see what's next on my agenda. Why am I just going on and on about this stuff? So what I'm doing is I'm creating content that I'm going to chop up later. I'll hopefully, when I have enough subscribers, I'll be able to hire it out. I just don't have enough time because I work full time. So checking on the markets. So let's take a look at this. What's going on? Let me get rid of the spreadsheet here. And I'm going to wrap up probably with showing about quick exploring what's possible with, bots, which is my thing right now. Because I'm not doing the 100x and 200x trading stuff like thing. I'm working with bots because of the impairments. And there's a principle there too, shout out to the book, Lessons from the Pit. The message from that book was, whoever you are, whatever your weaknesses are, you need to manage your weaknesses and live in your strengths. So I'm looking at bots here. We had going up here. If you want to look at what I'm looking at, if I'm about to actually get into a trading session, down here in the lower corner, if you can see my arrow down here, that is 5 seconds. This is 15 seconds. This is 15 minutes. Why that combination? Well, if I'm doing high leverage training, 100x, 200x, I want to be in and out in seconds or minutes. That's why. And this tells me what's going on. Well, we're having to push down 15 minutes. Up here is 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and 1 minute. What is this telling me? Well, even though the bigger thing is telling me pushing down, we've bottomed out on the 5 minutes. See this little doji here, this turning green here? We might actually start going up. Well, guess what? This is starting to go up. This little spike down here that happened here in the 1 minute, you would have seen very clearly down here in the, I'm not going to roll back for you to see it, but you'd have seen it happen and you'd have seen it starting to reverse. And that's where you'd have gotten in. And I would probably be already out and I would have made 30% ROI. Well, everyone else in the world is trying to, look, they're waiting for the hourly to turn green, which is over here. If you're wondering if I should show you my report card from last year, because if you don't know who I am and who am I to even say these things, you never heard that before anywhere. What are you talking about? I've never heard that. I spent $10,000 on a trading course and no one's ever said that. And well, let me show you who I am, I guess, quietly. If I can switch to the right account to get access to my pictures, I'll show you. I got my report card from last year. This is the second year in a row that I was in the top 1% of 1% type of thing. Except for the first year, they only had 5 million users from 200 countries. They've always been in 200 countries. But right now, I think last year they went up to 20 million users, 200 countries trading. It's one of the few places in the world where, oh, that's kind of a, can I clean that up? All right. It's kind of messy because it's blown up. But this is my report card. And they gave me this title. I'm the crypto Warren Buffett. Buffett. Sorry. This number here, if you can't read it, says 99.52% of users. My volume in USDT exceeded 99.52% of users. That's 20 million users from 200 different countries. That includes the hedge funds people from those countries that are using this exchange. And 91.35% of that was futures trading. And what's really weird about that is last year was a bear market. I don't do short trading right now, especially because of the impairments, but almost all this was done, and I didn't know I was trading with an impairment. I started noticing towards the end of the year, figuring things out halfway. I was like, really? Is this happening? And then anyway, but only 4.63% is bots. So anyway, so if you want to know who I am, and these are some of my bot results. I did a deep dive into this, so I don't need to repeat that. Just go watch everything from Sunday night. All right. So what's going on in the market today? Let's starts with Bitcoin, right? I have to change this. Bitcoin kind of rules the world because even the United States SEC says it's not it officially has said it's not a security. So, Robert Kiyosaki, I loved his stuff. I've hosted Cash Go games. I loved his book. I think he's gotten a little crazy in his old age, and his wife's putting out some good content for women and women empowerment. But he actually, he's a fan of Bitcoin now. Suddenly, for a while there, he was like too involved with conspiracy stuff and things. And it's not that conspiracy stuff isn't real. It's just like, what can you do about it? If you can't do much about it, your awareness of it, great. But if you ever want to decide where to invest your time and whatever is whatever's feeding into your brain, your mind game, right? Is it something you can take action on and do anything about? If the answer is no, then focus on making your world a better place. That's how you can make your world a better place. All right. So this is Bitcoin. So over here is kind of with bots. We're going to talk a little about bots. Whenever I'm trading, whether it's I'm setting up bots or going into a trading session or swing trading session or whatever it is, I prefer. Here's a tidbit for you to write down. I believe your risk is time in market. So when you are in a trade, that's when you're at risk. Why? I learned this the hard way. I was in a trade where I lost a shit ton of money. I laughed about it. Most people would have cried or worse. In fact, we had it happen at the same time. We both started giggling after it because it was an insane amount of money that we lost. And it took us a day later. We found out that China shut off a third of its power supply, specifically in the district that was processing Bitcoin. And they caused this massive, unbelievable spike. And we lost like a ton of money in 30 seconds. And I thought I had accounted for that, what could be a possible dip. I had no idea. You can't plan for shit like that, but you can create a strategy that accommodates shit like that. And you know what? I figured out that when you hear about people, all these liquidations happening, the reason why those are happening is because they do not have a strategy that accommodates the unknown. And worse, all those billions of dollars, those are already wealthy people gambling with money, not being good stewards, instead of putting money to work for a higher purpose. Which is probably why they're gambling. I would run a hedge fund. I would totally different than gambling. Gambling, yeah. You want to do gambling? Gambling days are kind of fun. That's where you take all the money out of something that you're growing. Give yourself a budget. You're walking into the casino called cryptocurrency, and you're going into that one exchange through your VPN, and I know where it is. Even if a U.S. citizen, you get 200x leverage, and you just go for it, baby. And if you get wiped out, you're done. Your gambling session's done. But if you doubled your money, go do it again. Do it again, and you just have fun. But you're going in holding the context. It's a plan, right? What's your plan? You're a gambler. If you are a gambler, I used to gamble all the time during Y2K. I had more money than I knew what to do with. I would go in. Let me tell you this way. My first blackjack table was with some friends and family. And I thought the goal of the game was to hit 21. So you can imagine how that went. You're probably laughing, right? So I'm sitting there I'm saying, hit me, right? And people are like looking at me like I'm a weirdo. Well, I lost my $60 budget so hard and fast. It's funny. And and they just say, and the dealer says, sir, I just have to ask, why were you doing it that way? I says, well, the goal of the game is hit 21, isn't it? She handed me a pamphlet. She says, no, sir, that's not the goal of the game. And everyone just started laughing. What did I do? Did I quit? No, I just thought, oh man, I'm an idiot. I laughed and I went and found the best couple books on blackjack, and I can hold my own. My favorite game is craps, by the way. But anyway, I'm not going to get into those stories. So if you have a little bit of a gambler in you, that can serve you, right? But if you are a gambling addict, it will not. But I've done well there, and doing well there is usually about having management and having a plan and knowing why you're there. And I always went in for entertainment. So I was always entertained. And when I had the proper context and money management strategies, I would usually come out even, and that's a win. And a lot of times I came out with a little bit extra money. And sometimes I made hundreds of dollars. And sometimes I got really lucky. Crypto is way easy to get lucky. It's also way easy to gamble and then be stupid. And it's a learning experience, right? Shout out to my son, Matthew, who came and spent 5 days with me to learn how to active trade and do high leverage trading. His first trade, he nailed down like a 15% ROI in 3 minutes, and he was so excited. He went home, and I think he completed mission one in like 2 or 3 days. He was so proud of himself. You know what? He's going to get greedy. I warned him about getting greedy. We spent a whole day on mindset, right? Sure enough, a couple days later, he called me. He was laughing his ass off. He said, Dad, you were so right. I got greedy, and I wiped myself out. So anyway, he's cool. He's a good young man. He's 23 now, whatever. Cool. I told him, I says, don't expect an inheritance, although you're probably going to become a multimillionaire from inheritance. But just so you know, dude, I have no sense of obligation of giving you anything as far as inheritance, because I just gave you the keys to the kingdom of life. And he agreed. I asked him, and I think we did a live stream in a private forum. He said to me, he said, Dad, you know what? You're right. He says, I now understand this stuff and how money flows and money works and cycles, and I can do this. I could become a multimillionaire or a billionaire if I wanted to. I says, yeah, you just have to figure out a reason why you're willing to do it. I said, because trading gets really, really boring. He's a gamer. I said, it gets really boring, really hard, really fast. So you need to see the light at the end of the tunnel. All right. Sorry for that segue, but that's part of the cool stuff. So Bitcoin was this is what's happening. This is the weekly. Wow. What was this? Oh, this is the first of the year. Look at what Bitcoin's been doing since the first year. And then it dipped down to the center Bollinger Band, right? 19 to 20,000. Oh, this was just last week. Why did it not keep going up? Well, it was that big bank out of California. Yeah. And all the hedge fund people that were been trusting this bank for 20 some years, working with this bank kind of probably was significant in their lives. Instead of having a Zoom call together saying, how can we save our bank that has served us so well? They all pull their money and create a bank run. It was like a billionaire's bank run. And USDC was kind of like almost all of the backing of that stable coin crypto was being held in this one little itty bitty California bank. All I saw is this was starting to happen, and I got stuck in a trade. Or my bot did. And it sorted itself out. Guess what? Last night in the middle of the night, this started happening, right? Literally, yeah. Like 23 hours ago. See, this 6 days, 1 hour, 23 hours ago, this happened. In the middle of the night, I didn't know that our regulators and people did announcements in the effing middle of the night. I'm thinking they're letting other insiders know, and suddenly they're like, oh man, you can move in the market now. And suddenly they moved in the market, and we had this thing happen in the middle of the night. I was broadcasting. I saw it happen. I was like, oh, I wonder what happened. It's kind of cool. So Bitcoin is like kind of cool. So what's happening here? The reason I'm pulling up Bitcoin is because what Bitcoin does, Ethereum does. The reason I already explained why I do XRP, because XRP is kind of still tied to it a little bit, but the big boys, hedge fund money, isn't going in and out of XRP because XRP is in a lawsuit. They've been delisted from Coinbase, and guess what? They're still doing okay. Why? Because Saudi, they have a use case of real use for big money, right? And if you look at my other spreadsheets, I refer to XRP, but I think I had it labeled XLM, which is kind of a consumer version of XRP, cross-border transfers. But the reason why I'm using XRP with my bots is because it's not as impacted as Bitcoin, Ethereum is. It still is impacted because of general overall market stuff, but not as much. The SEC and the U.S. wealthy hedge fund people don't have as big an influence because they won't touch XRP because until the end result of the SEC lawsuit. Matic is just a something that I track. I should probably do a bot around Matic. This is a DeFi. It's a darling of the DeFi world. No recommendations there, but I accumulate this one and stuff. So just one of several. And actually, I should probably make a post to Patreon subscribers because DDTC, a couple years ago, we spent like $14,000 to get the best analytics in the world to give us timing and things because as individuals researching coins, emerging coins and things in the market and all the news, that's a lot of work. So I'd rather outsource that to teams of people, except those subscriptions to have access to those data are usually like $3,000 where you can get a discount for $1,500 the first year. And there's like 3 or 4 or 5 different subscriptions. So we just got in on a lifetime subscription for all of their content to deal with crypto forever. And we as an organization, we nailed that down. So we do get access to that information, and I will probably be sharing that. It's proprietary information, so I can't necessarily share that stuff, but I can share with my Patreon subscribers what I've decided to do based on the information I have access to. I can do that. So I'm going to start rolling it out. I got one Patreon subscriber, happened yesterday, so mark your calendar. That gave me hope. There's one human being out there that thinks that I'm cool, and I like it. All right, so looking at this, notice how this changed over here in the shorter time frames. All right. So what's going on in Bitcoin? So if I go step backwards, this is telling me that something's on. I would have rather gotten in here when it's low. I like it when the stars line where all of these charts lining up. That's kind of like I'm tempted to just kind of say, let's go off plan and let's go all in. Let's be a gambler. And I've done that. I'll confess, and I wouldn't recommend it. It's fun though. When you're starting out and you don't have a whole lot of money to lose, then you can do shit like that. When you're diversifying and stuff, then you're like, don't do that. Take a small amount of it and do it. Have fun. Make it fun. Keep it fun. This over here is the daily. Ooh, look at this. See how this was happening? It was just like it didn't know what to do. Oh, it's rounding up. It's not gonna. It's going worse. Oh no, it's getting worse. Right? We haven't even crossed the MACD, so we have a lot of folks, professional folks. They won't even touch anything until this MACD crosses. Right? Some hedge fund managers won't even get in. They've already missed the safest time to be in. Is when this happened. From here to here is probably the safest time on the daily. It's touching the upper Bollinger Band, the daily. So it's touching the upper Bollinger Band, the weekly. So what's going to happen? Nobody knows. Anyone tells you they know, they're full of shit. What could happen? Well, we could uncover more crazy shit, and this will drive this back down to here, right? Or it's going to break out, and that next bull run that people have been talking about for about a year could start happening. You can just feel it, right? So when should you be buying? So you should be buying when everyone is hating on it. See this meter over here? What is this? Does it show me the meter? Strong buy. Look at this. Technicals. This is the way all the hedge fund managers, everyone who's anybody, the people who've been doing this for 40 years in the stock market, right? This is their buy-in. I'm not in the markets right now on any of this stuff. Why? Well, I sold because I was buying when this indicator was down over here. This meter is so powerful. If you want a simple tip, when this thing is all the way over to your sell and strong sell, especially in the major currencies, find out what's going on, right? When everyone's hating it, crypto's coming to an end, whatever. that's probably the time to take a position kind of thing, right? Start the trading process, right? In and out, in and out, in and out. And when it starts getting here neutral to strong buy, you need to start being careful. Always get stuck in a trade. Why? Because I'm sitting there going gangbusters while this is going on day after day after day after day. You get mesmerized by the market, and then it starts topping out, and it's like, what happens? Everyone starts taking profit. The big money starts taking profit, and then this goes, and you're stuck. You're stuck for weeks, months, years. There's a tip. There's a tip worth you tipping me 1% of whatever you were about to spend on a $5,000 or $10,000 training course. That tip alone could make you wealthy if you just were to just play with that first with little bits of money. Anyway, down here, so I always review this bigger picture here. And what is this telling me? This here is the wait a second, what is this? Weekly, daily. It's like, why? This chart doesn't make sense. This is supposed to be the 12-hour. I must have clicked on it. Oh, it's out of frame. Let's auto fit this. All right, that looks better. If ever you have charts and things don't look right, just double check, make sure that you're on the right time frame and stuff. All right. So this makes total sense, right? Look at this. Look at this. Now, if you were monitoring the 12-hour, this is why I look at this stuff first. See what's confusing about this? This MACD is saying, well, we're starting to actually lose momentum, right? It's kind of extending on the weekly, right? But we're not down here, right? You wanted, you want, here's where it crossed over way down there, right? That was if you're a MACD trading person only, right? Then this was where you want to get in, right? And it would have served you, right? You would have just had to survive this shit. And then right now you'd be like, oh, you'd be dancing. You're waking up. You can't wait to wake up. You actually opening up your portfolio instead of avoiding looking at your portfolio. I know you folks out there who are doing that. I do that too. I don't want to see it some days. All right. But you would have, but if we look over here, well, this is like, well, according to the daily, it's just like, it's about to cross, David. It hasn't crossed yet. Well, yeah. But you missed it. You missed the best entry. Well, sometimes you could get in the best entry and then it plummets down. Yeah, that happens. Why does that happen? Well, you can't control certain things. You can't control the Fed share, whatever. As the market gets out of commercial adoption and into consumer adoption, a lot of this stuff will be balancing out and these patterns will be more reliable. But right now, because all the big money views everything from fear and scarcity for the most part, billions in, billions out. When the billions in flows in, goes up. Billions out, goes down. Before commercial adoption was involved with here, we had huge 10% hour fluctuations. It was crazy easy to make money, by the way. It was crazy easy to lose money, right? But those are people's dreams. You had everybody, faith, fear, everything in the markets. I miss those days. And then the regulations start coming in. I hate that. I mean, it's important, it's necessary, right? But so down here, let's look at this one. This is the one that I pay attention to the most after looking at this. So what does this tell me? It looks like we're probably going to trend sideways between the upper Bollinger Band and the middle Bollinger Band. If you don't know what those are, go seek out Trading Rush and and look up Bollinger Band. You can find out the history and what it is and means. But usually stuff will travel depending on the time frame between these and then 1% more standard deviation. You don't need to be a math guru. I'm just going to use the language. This is 2% standard deviation, which is what everyone looks at. But if you really want to see what the real range is, go in and change it to 3 instead of 2. And you'll see these lines will likely be pushed out to here. And if you go backward in history, you'll see for the most part, it stays within that 3% standard deviation thing. You don't need to know any of that crap to be successful with this, but you learn it and you pick it up. You don't have to go back to school. If you want to understand it, go do the GPI thing and say, teach me this, and then it will, and just say, and it'll give you a college level thing and say, teach this to me as if I was in the 3rd grade, and it'll do it too. It's very cool. Use adaptive AI to learn stuff. It's amazing. It'll save you a ton of time. All right. So I'm predicting that, okay, so you see this projection down, right? I'm thinking it's gonna probably it might like wander back down here eventually, or it'll wander back up, but it's gonna kind of wander here and there. It might establish a new point of control. If you ever wonder what these red lines are down here, it's called point of control. I don't have it active here because the point of control gets really weird on longer time frames. I predict it might. It's probably it wants to go above. Breached 25. That means it wants to go up to 30, right? So it's gonna all the big money is gonna try to see is it stable enough to play this, and if so, they're gonna roll their money in and out, and they're gonna slow roll the money waiting for the breakout. They're taking positions right now. Whenever you see like everything going sideways, see if I can give you see this sideways thing here, right here on the weekly? That's big money slowly and quietly accumulating. That's the way I interpret that, right? Whenever you see sideways, people are accumulating. What should you be doing? Well, maybe accumulating. What should you be accumulating? Well, that's the kind of information that's available for Patreon subscribers, kind of thing. It's not there yet, but the person who is my Patreon subscriber already has access to that because she happens to be a founder of DDTC too. And she's, for some reason, has thought I was amazing like 2 years ago, as well as a CPA friend of mine that I've known for like 30 years. So it's cool. Someday we might be buying businesses together and things. We almost did it, and then the people we were going to hire as consultants just dropped the ball. So it's probably a good thing because the world got really weird. This is what I look at when I'm making bot decisions. And like today, this is the hourly. I was hoping, let's see, last night, I was hoping it was, wait a second. I'm not in the right thing. Okay, let's make this look a little bit more. Because I don't want to be subjected to the whims of hedge fund managers. Whenever because they don't know what they're doing. That's why they keep getting liquidated. Some of them probably do. There's a percentage of people that are doing as good as I am, half of 1%. And some of those people might be hedge fund managers, and we'll never know who they are because they're not going to teach us what they know. They don't want you to know. They take advantage of everyone doing the same thing because what they do is that creates a cycle. If everyone knew what I knew, right, it would create a cycle. Everyone would be doing it. And then suddenly what I know, it doesn't have much value other than certain scenarios. So when I set up bots, this is sell. This might be a good time to buy. It probably is. Anyway, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? Because the SEC could rule this thing to be a security. If it's ruled as a security, then only qualified investors will be able to buy and hold it. That means and in the crypto world, you need to know what the word qualified investor means. That language is a stock market language. They have a different language. They have a different set of rules. In the stock market world, that's like you have to have $250,000 a year income and have like $1 million plus assets. Whatever the qualifications are, it changes sometimes. You can look it up. Most likely you aren't there, which means suddenly you're discriminated against if the SEC says that. Bad. In crypto, you have to have $10 million of liquid assets or something like that. Not kidding. That's why U.S. citizens and no one but already rich people can have access to Binance. They can actually have access to secondary passports and all sorts of stuff. So the rules that discriminate you, that hold you down to keep you as a peasant, don't apply to them. I think that's wrong if you're an American citizen, especially. I think it's wrong if you're anyone. I think we should have universal civil rights, human rights, sentient rights, right? But it's really super wrong for U.S. citizens because it disrupts your pursuit of happiness. You can go to a casino where everything is stacked against you, right? But you can't go here where you actually have freedom and it's a free market thing. Kind of weird. So write your Congress people, use ResistBot if you need to be time efficient about it. So let's get back to looking at this from a botting perspective, because this is not an active trading. I guess you could do it as a swing trading perspective. This is not an educational session because I'm not doing a deep dive on how to do trades, but I'm going to give you a little idea of what I set up last night. So, my bot ended somewhere around here. I got out automatically. This is the hourly. The easy money here was from down here to the middle, but with a bot, it's kind of cool because while this is going on up and down every minute, it's buying and selling on your behalf. You don't have to be sitting there doing active trading. See, if I'm active trading, the 100x, 200, if I'm good at it, I can make money at a rate that is equivalent to a CEO, right? But it's still trading dollars for hours. When I set up a bot before I go to bed at night, and it gets activated because the market does this, and it gets activated somewhere around here, right? And it does this until it exits the business plan. I spent 5 minutes setting it up. And I manage it. I keep an eye on it. Maybe something in the market changes. Maybe there's a new thing, and I decide to get out early or whatever. I have certain goals, right? And I'll show you that in the spreadsheet here in a little bit. This is working on my behalf while I'm sleeping. A lot of times my trades start and exit while I am literally asleep. Sometimes I wake up and I was like, oh wow, I made $300 before I woke up, before my first pee in the morning. I actually created a trading system. I almost threatened to just write a book called Potty Time Training, DDTC Potty Time Training, because I demonstrated starting with zero to actually $7,500 in a couple months, just doing it while I was going potty. I was just taking advantage of short little bull run things at high leverage. And that was while I had an impairment too. And I just realized that I noticed I had the impairment. And as soon as I noticed it, I started questioning myself. And you can't be doing that, questioning yourself. It's part of the mind game thing. So I'm doing it with bots. And I'm going to show you why I'm doing it with bots. And in fact, Cindy was very excited that I'm doing bots. In fact, I think her and Susan have been waiting for me to get into. I promised doing bots like 2 years ago. But I got so excited about 100x trading, and I want to like retire and like trade those mechanisms, those high leverage trades. I want to learn the programming, and with AI, I can probably do it faster now. Create bots for it where I can go in through an API, because right now the bots are built into the exchange, so I'm limited to 10x. But imagine being able to do a bot with what I know how to do in 5-second, 1 second, 5-second, 15-second increments, scalping within a range and being in and out within 3 minutes and automatically restarting. That's probably what I'd do if I was a homeless person, if I lost my career. Sometimes being too comfortable slows you down. Can you imagine that? And Cindy's like, yeah, David, I can imagine that. That's why I'm a subscriber. $5 a month. Get out there. I want you to create that bot. Yes, ma'am. And you will be one of the first people. You might actually help me develop and test that bot. Just shout out to Cindy. Anyway. So craziness. So what am I doing? So Homeless David 1.0, and there's a story there. And since I'm telling stories, I'll tell that story. During COVID, Dinah and I were visiting the coast, and this homeless guy, older couple, they helped me answer some questions about where some stuff was. And I thought to myself, they're sitting around there doing nothing. They could trade, because I noticed he had a smartphone. So I gave him, I created a business card out of a piece of paper, and I says, listen, when you get about $100 saved about and things have settled down, or you're just sitting around, you still have your smartphone, you have access to the internet, reach out to me on Facebook and I will teach you how to trade and transform your finances. And they're really nice. I'll probably never hear from them. I wish they would have. If they ever watch us, I want to let them know that they inspired something. So later that week, I decided, I probably need to figure that out. So I set it up a thing, because I was still working out how to do this since I have a tax-free system legally, not lying, pay your taxes, all that sort of stuff. But can you legitimately trade high leverage trading right now as a U.S. citizen and do it legally? Well, there's several different ways of doing it, and I'm not going to get into those strategies. It took me 8 months to figure it out, test it, and validate it. And it's expensive to set up. It's like, I don't know, $1,200-$1,500 to set up and $500-$600 a year for maintenance. And when you're only limited to like $5,000 or $6,000 a year deposits, that doesn't make sense for most people unless you're doing real estate usually. But with what I know how to do, it made sense. And I recommend everybody, by the way, just open up as many Roth IRA accounts, just throw $1 in it, especially if you're older, because you have to wait 3 years before you can tap into any of those funds. So as soon as you put $1 into it, it starts that rule tipping. So yeah, set up your TD Ameritrade and your all that sort of stuff. I've got actually a to-do list. I haven't made available to Patreon subscribers yet. I'm going to need to revisit it, make sure it's current. Cindy already has access to it, so I'm not in a rush. But anyway, um, you just work through it. It's boring, but it creates the infrastructure that creates the foundation for your empowerment. It creates the infrastructure for your financial sovereignty. I should probably do a little class on that too. This will be quick and easy. Financial empowerment is everyone's afraid. Okay, so whatever your fears are, you need to face them, overcome, and have a plan for that. Okay, there we go. Boom. So, financial empowerment or empowerment is, let's say you're a U.S. citizen and your government removes your ability to trade crypto, and you're back to 8% S&P 500 if you've had a good year, which will take you 12.5 years to double your money, and 200. What is that? 12.5 times 225 years, become a millionaire starting with $5, although you need more than $5. But anyway, we have a spreadsheet for that. I know those numbers off the top of my head because I kind of live there, so you don't have to. You don't have to create the spreadsheet. I've done it. I've done that 2 years worth of development for you. And yeah, you get it for a $5 a month commitment. It's really, really cool. I was going to charge $333,333.33 for that. And you still owe me that, by the way, if you complete mission 20, starting with $5. I'm just letting you know I'm burdening you with that. You still owe me. Your honor is your own. I won't need the money. I don't need the money. But for now, $5 a month, because I want even a homeless person to be able to do this. Because you got to see that it's possible. But here's the answer to your question. Empowerment is the fact that you could be a homeless person. Government's taking everything from you. They liquidated you. They kicked you out. Maybe whatever they did to you, you're free now. You can't really get a job. Everyone's exploiting you. You're living on the street. You go to whatever place. You get a basic cell phone. You can't even afford the cell service, but there's so much free Wi-Fi. Your favorite coffee shop, whatever you can. Your goal is to eat that day. You feel guilty hanging out at a coffee shop, so you buy the coffee, so you hang out there all day, and you can use your Wi-Fi, and you got your cell phone, and you can trade. But your ID has been stolen. Your ID has been stolen. You don't have the $40, $68 to get a new ID. You don't want to waste some money on the bus fare to get down there, sit in line at DMV to get your ID. So you can't even get onto Coinbase as a U.S. citizen because you've been financially discriminated. Your right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness has been effing removed from you because of your status in life. I know every homeless person saying, "Oh my God, someone gets it." Yeah, I do get it. I understand. I've never been homeless like that. Not like that. But I thought about it. And I was like, well, how can I help that person? Because if our society doesn't work for that person, our society is wrong and needs to change. So I figured it out. And I tested it last year, starting from zero, nothing, no ID, and an account where I couldn't pass the KYC because I'm a US citizen. I didn't need to use a VPN, not yet, right? Had enough freedom still. I don't know when they're going to revoke that for me, right? But usually if they do, I got a couple years with VPN access. So there's ways around it, and I teach how to do that, right? I can't get on the 200x leverage place, and there's some risk there because if they find out I'm a U.S. citizen, they will take my funds, and they've disclosed that. I don't think they should take it. They should just let me withdraw it. But that's a risk you have to take. So you have to like make no mistakes with your VPN. You have to be kind of tech savvy. But you should never have to do that as a U.S. citizen or any citizen anywhere in the United States, right? The only people who have to do shit like that are Chinese citizens, North Korean citizens, Iranian citizens, and other shithole, I shouldn't say shithole countries, I'm sorry. But everyone recognizes that language. Places where the individual's rights are trampled upon. Well, we U.S. citizens are trampled and have been trampled. Well, yeah, you just have to use other people's money. Well, who has the money? Already wealthy people. So who controls you? The wealthy people. Your lord, the lords of the land control you because you have to go to them to make money. Now, granted, you make a little bit of money, offer them a lot of money, then you're making a lot of money, but they're the ones pulling the strings. That's not how America's supposed to be, right? That's feudalism. We've recreated it, and they have checkmated us. as little people. So anyway, just be aware, right? So empowerment is your ability to just say, okay, without hurting anyone, without breaking any laws that are going to throw you in jail or anything like that, right? Circumventing for the VPN is more a burden on the exchange you're going to. You're just a naughty boy going somewhere you're not supposed to, right? It's not like trespassing, right? It's not like that. You're not going to be prosecuted for using a VPN, right? Unless you're a Chinese citizen. If they find out that if you've been on Google and reading America's news story to find out what's really going on in their country, they could throw you in jail. And they do that all the time, right? And that's called fascism, right? There's a lot of good things that happen in China. They have the ancient wisdom, blah, blah, but man, their ruling class. What's cool about China, though, if a billionaire goes against the general good of the public, they will literally throw them in prison. Their billions of dollars won't buy them out of it in China. I have to say I respect that. Salute. But I disrespect the lack of respect for human rights and civil rights and discriminations, even though I may understand why they're retraining certain religious people and things and why, and they think those things are subversive, which they are, and blah, blah, blah. I get why they're protecting the larger population, but how they're doing it and their methodologies are dishonorable. They violate the golden rule. So there we go. You've got nothing. You're starting from zero. I know how to right now, right? It would work. It might not always work, but right now while I'm recording this, it would work. Show you how to use that cell phone to start with zero and become a millionaire. Probably, well, all right. If you had nothing better to do all day than trade, probably in 6 months or less, starting with zero. Zero. Theoretically, to do it right, you would need to probably come up with a couple $100 to get a subscription to TradingView. However, thank you, Google. You get 30 days free trial at their top premium things, which gives you access to the 5-second and 15-second data stream. You just switch accounts, set up a new account every 30 days with a different email address. You have access to that data for free. Is that exploitive? Yes. If you were homeless, should you do that? Yeah, why not? Those of us that are paying for it, right? That's great. I would ask you, though, that as soon as you're able to pay for it, pay your way. Please do that. Because why? That's a prosperity thing. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, right? You want to know why Dubai doesn't have a lot of crime? Everyone thinks it's because, they'll chop your hand off, No, that's not why. It really isn't. It's because if you were a homeless person in Dubai, you would actually have to be a criminal to break some of the laws there. Why? Because their culture, shout out to Islam, by the way. So just so you know, I've got friends of every belief system, right? And there's Islam good, there's Islam bad. There's Christianity good, there's Christianity bad. There's Satanism good, there's Satanism bad. There's witchcraft good, there's witchcraft bad. There's atheism good, there's atheism bad. Whatever the ism, religion, whatever, there's good versions and bad versions. There's a book called Eat the Rich, right? It's out of date, but it's about economic system. There's good socialism, bad socialism, good capitalism, bad capitalism, good communism, bad communism. The United States happens to be one of the things that made it great was we're a hybrid. But all this isolationism crap came out of the 50s with propaganda. I'm not going to get into that. So the thing is you can do it with technology. Even if you're a homeless person with no money, no ID, you still have the freedom and liberty to do that. I reject this idea about, we got to stop human trafficking. We got to stop drug trade. We got to stop the cartels, Bitcoin. They all use cash. Why? Well, we got to stop the stable coins and privacy coins. Okay, first of all, if you want to stop all these crimes, you have to create the market you have to stop the market for it, not the providers that feed the market. Right? War on drugs is never going to win because there's a market for it. The minute you outlaw something, you create the market for it. And if someone's willing to you're right. Who's the market for human trafficking? Wealthy people. They're the one that's buying it. Most of it. Anyway, not going to go too deep into this. So the point is, it's all about principle, right? We have the data. Shout out to the book, Narconomics, How to Become a Drug Lord, which actually looks at the reality of situations. We know how to end the war on drugs because the countries have done it a long time ago, and we're not using the data or the knowledge that we have. Why? We're perpetuating it. Why? For reasons of power, fear, and scarcity ideology. Great audio to listen to, by the way, called Narconomics. So yeah, United States could end that. We could end immigration. We have all these world issues and problems, and we're all looking at all the decision makers are born and raised with peasant mindedness, so they're making decision making from fear and scarcity when we're living literally on a planet of unlimited amount. We have literally created a planet that's 90-some% water. We can't drink the water anymore without filtering it first. I mean, why did we do that? Well, because so we can sell you water. I remember the first time I saw bottled water, I said, no one's going to do this. This is stupid. I had no idea someone would be so greedy to say, let's just destroy the water supply so we can sell water. And welcome to capitalism. Not all capitalism is bad, by the way, but there's an example of bad capitalism. So empowerment is your ability, because of all that it is, right? Because the truth is we have 300 million people in America, half of them, well, okay, a 30% vote one way, another 30% vote another way, and the people who decide are the ones in the middle, and most of them are just don't even want to vote, but they're the swing voters, they're the ones that actually decide what happens policy-wise, and we will never agree on what is necessary to change all of that. So you, the individual that I'm talking to, whoever's listening now or in the future, has to become empowered to become wealthy. You have to become one of the new ruling elites somewhere in the world to train other new ruling elites, not from fear and scarcity. We got to get you yours, no matter who you are, where you are at, without you having to go kiss somebody's ass to get the money. Okay. We got to get you there so you're freedom. Because the wealthy people, the Russian oligarchs, discovered that, they don't have sovereignty. Hence, their $10 million yachts are being seized and their assets are being seized around the world. And they're running because of what they're running as fugitives, even though they may not be fugitives, because of what one dude decided to do, who's leading a country that's got power. Now, because they're a citizen of that country, all of their personal rights are being violated. Yeah, but they're rich, David. They're oligarch and the influence. I don't know. Where's their due process? Where's the due process in this? Seems like an excuse to me. So if they understood sovereignty, let's say they go incognito and they decide to make the world a better place. They immigrate to some country world. Empowerment is the fact that they're starting from scratch, and within a year or two or months, they're financially powerful again, without taking away anyone's jobs. Like if you're an immigrant to a country, guess what kind of jobs you get? You get the shit jobs, right? It's just the way it works, right? I know how to cook burgers, right? My first job was at McDonald's, official job, right? I know all sorts of different things where I can make some money. I can sweep floors. I mean, I'm willing to work. I've always been willing to work, right? And you get a little bit of cash flow. In order to play the game of cash flow, you have to have cash flow. So I can start over. That's why I'm not afraid of it. Di and I talk about that all the time. Like, we could live there. We're pointing at homeless camps. We could live there. We're talking about strategically. Well, where should we live if we were homeless? Why? Because it's an exercise. Because shit can happen, right? We're not afraid of it because we have been financially empowered with knowledge. We know. I remember I think it was January 10th. I looked at her. I says, well, babe, I know you love me. She says, why is that? I says, well, I ran the numbers on your results, how you've been trained for the last couple of weeks, and you no longer need me financially. She says, what? And I showed her the spreadsheet. Scared the shit out of her. She didn't realize how much money she was making. It was hilarious. And I ran the numbers on what I was doing, and that scared the shit out of me because I was not mentally ready or prepared for that. So it was kind of wild. Just true story. But she's still with me. A lot of times we never know if our partner's with us, if they really love us, or because it's necessary. Well, she doesn't need me for anything. One of my greatest accomplishments in my life was helping her become financially empowered, where she doesn't need a thing from me. And she can go on to be a multimillionaire if she wants to, with or without me. Money doesn't really drive her. It doesn't really drive me anymore either. It used to when I was younger. But she's empowered. That's empowerment. So starting from zero with all those disadvantages, all the unfairness, all this crap could turn you into a millionaire inside of a couple of years or less. Yeah, that's empowerment. Sovereignty, that'd be like me saying I'm tired of figure out what country in the world I could actually trade and have freedom in, right? Where I could like become a refugee and just escape with my life and give up my U.S. citizenship and actually go to a place where basic freedoms of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Well, as long as you're not screwing other people or hurting them, is honored. I could go restart my life, and I'd be a powerhouse within a couple, probably less than a year, probably a couple months, even with the impairments. Right? I have a plan for that. If you have a plan for that, you don't have fear. If you don't have any fear, then they can't control you anymore. And if you don't have to go to already wealthy people in order to get money, you're not having to compromise your values or principles. I don't have anything against wealthy people. I want wealthy people to be good stewards. I want to train them to be good stewards. I mean, they get predatorized by banks. I'm not going to name the banks, but I had a business partner. We were working in the cash flow industry for a while, and she actually was working with the FBI and shut down an entire department of a bank that had created a mechanism for screwing millionaires and billionaires out of money, and it was one of the top national banks, and you would recognize their name. And she's dead now. Carol, just miss you. Uh, but she was instrumental in getting them shut down because they're hurting people. They're doing fundraising for projects. So you have to go to the rich people. Well, these wealthy people deal with a lot of crap too, right? We got to change the principles for which we're operating our business, our governments, our decision making, our justice systems. What we have right now isn't working, and that's what POTU is about. Empowerment. I mean, excuse me. Okay, so empowerment's the first thing. Uh, uh, Gosh darn it, there's that little word. I use this word all the time, and it's just suddenly gone. Boom. So it's your sovereignty. Usually sovereignty requires a military. Okay. That's that chest that people are finding with their metal detectors from 2,000 years ago. This little kingdom that no one ever knew about. There was a sovereign there, a king, right? He was usually the badass warlord of the area type of thing. And they became sovereign. They hide their money in a chest, but they can pay for warriors to protect them. That's sovereignty, right? Well, today, technology, you can be sovereign, right? You can become a sovereign, right? So, what does that mean? So, like right now, I have a system of possibility, and let's say my government takes everything. Let's say this was a hard wallet. It's not. It's earbud stuff. But let's say it was a hard wallet. Oh, they steal your hard wallet. There's a guy in Germany. They took his hard wallet. He set up a little routine. It really wasn't. They put him in jail for a couple of years. He made millions of dollars in Bitcoin, just kind of farming Bitcoin through people's apps and programs. He wasn't hurting anybody. He was just kind of tapping into the resources without permission. It was a criminal act in Germany. Millions of dollars. And they told him, we're going to get it. You're going to get the Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. He didn't really rob anybody. He just kind of robbed a little bit of the resources. And I could see where he could, it's a Robin Hood kind of thing, probably, right? But anyway, he served his time, and they kept his thumb drive. That dude has sovereignty. Why? Well, because they have civil rights and human rights there, they wouldn't torture him to get his password, right? Or probably if he forgot his password. They interrogated him, they couldn't get his password. He couldn't remember his password. I'm sure he couldn't remember his password. So there's processes, even if you forget your memory, that you could set up with simple ciphers and stuff and how you live your life where you can remember things later. Well, if I go to another country, or I could teach some of these processes, you could go to another country. What's your sovereignty? Your sovereignty is remembering a password to something that you have access to in another country that unlocks something your government couldn't steal from you because they don't have access. That's why all the governments are working on. They want digital currency now because they can cinch down your access, right? Total control. That's fascism, by the way. If you ever wonder what it was, that's the shit we don't want, right? A disrespect for individual freedom and liberties. There's got to be a balance here with this power and control stuff. And there's value in the government being able to do that, right? But I think that's not going to solve any problems, right? I can teach you sovereignty. And that's what's really kind of cool about this. Oh, hey, babe, I'm in the middle of a stream to the world. Okay, babe. The Optavia goddess has gotten home from her job. It's kind of cool, which means I've been on here for a long time. So I'll probably wrap up in a little while, but let's finish this. So sovereignty is empowerment is you crossing the border with nothing and starting over. Imagine crossing the border with nothing, establish yourself to a point where you can unlock your world and you've got a lot of resources. Okay. That's what DDTC is kind of all about. I want to get the fear out of your life. I want you to feel empowered. Suddenly you go to work, whatever your job is, and you don't hate your job anymore because it's a means to an end. I'm going to do a whole series about finding a good job, whatever, get the stress out of your life, whatever, all that sort of stuff. Principle, neat, cool stuff. All right. That was my segue. So we talked a little bit about bots. Where would I set the thing? I didn't share that, did I? All right. So Homeless David 1.0 took him 59 days to double his money. His ratio was he had $30 to work with, backed up by $60 that should have been in a bot but wasn't. But it was just in case, worst case scenario. So he took the $30 and turned it into $60 with zero trading loss. It took him like 58 or 59 days. And this was I think in 2021. And a lot of crazy things happened. He got stuck in trades, all sorts of stuff. He made every mistake I could think of making except for one. He didn't over leverage himself. He doubled his money in 59 days. 100% ROI. That's pretty cool. Well, how cool is that? You want to know how cool that is? Okay. So the bot program that I'm working on right now, it was based on that with some leverage applied. I think he wasn't allowed to use anything more than 3x leverage, right? Well, bots kind of do. You can use that concept just using Bollinger Bands for getting an idea where to make your entries. Now, when the market's hot, right? One of the problems with a hot market is it never really dips, right? And that's one of the problems that you have to, that's where some training and guidance and coaching can come in, because what happens if I was trading on this and my entry is only when it gets the middle Bollinger Band, but this happens where it never comes back down to touch this again for like months. Am I not going to trade for months? Well, if you're a billionaire running a hedge fund, probably maybe you can gamble with part of it. But if you're trying to build something from scratch, you can't wait. You don't want to wait. You can't wait. It's one thing you can't buy back is your time, right? You can recover from being liquidated, right? You just start over, right? So, so on the hourly, you know, I like to start my bots when it dips, and it usually will cycle down. Right now, see how it's crossing over here on the top on this MACD? It's probably going to cycle back down to the lower Bollinger Band. And what is that? Let's make this. Let's just make this big. 35.86 cents. So now if I was trading high leverage, I'd be trapping for this. And maybe I would start here and I would set traps with different ranges and percentages of leverage. And anyway, I have a process for that, and it's complicated, and you can't have impairments and do it in your head type of thing. I was going to get around to doing a spreadsheet. I never went around to do a spreadsheet because I was doing it in my head. Then I lost my ability to do it in my head, and I just had to come up with bots. With the bots, so right, right now the lower Bollinger Band is here, right? So if I wanted to be sure to get in, right, I would probably set a bot to be. I visualize this. There's probably some quant theory and regression analysis where I could figure out exactly the sweet spot at any given moment in time to do this. And I'll probably work with advanced AI because I'm into weird shit like that. But it's not necessary. It's like somewhere around here, this is going to probably eventually come down here and probably do a spike because something's going to happen. And it's going to come down at least to maybe here. Most likely it's going to spike down to here. But if I want to be insured to get in, right, I would probably set the entry here. But what I could do is I could start a bot to start here because I'm pretty sure it's going to hit there. If it goes below here, what it's going to do is just going to scalp while it's up here till it comes back up, right? Till it does this. It'll do this. It's scalping, and it'll probably still be in range. And then when it comes back up, it gets out, and you make most of your money from the scalping. But if I'm doing a leverage thing, and what's cool about bots is, if it comes down here, let's say just channels in this upper channel for a while, it'll get in here, get out on here, get in here until it dips down here. Well, what I do, I can have some reserve funds and have it just seen as a trap ready to go. This is strategy stuff, right? That alone is something I didn't understand at first. These patterns why does this happen and why didn't this just keep on going? Is a good question. It took me a long time to figure this out. It's because people that did this, they're selling, and that's causing it to come down. And then a lot of automated trading starts buying, which causes it to level out and go sideways, right? Once you understand those cycles, you see the cycles, you create strategies, plans to trap those cycles. And that's all I'm doing. There's no rocket science here. And I'm beating the quant people, it seems. So, because the past does not guarantee the future. So you have to come up with a mechanism that deals with reality. I call it adaptive trading because things change at any given 15 seconds. You can have fun. You want to have a free training tip? Here's a training tip. Go in here on the 5 seconds, call it out like Howard Cosell, like a news thing. Well, we're hitting the middle Bollinger Band. Is it going to go up? Looks like it's going to go up. It looks like it's going up. Oh, it's going up. It's going up. It's going up. It's reaching top Bollinger Band. Is it going to break out? Is it going to break out? Is it going to break out? I think it's going to break out. I think it's going to go break out. Why do I think? Because on the 15 seconds, oh, we're breaking it. Oh, we're breaking it. It's going. It's going. It's going. And you just call it. Call it while it's happening. Over a few days, you're going to get like you're psychic. At first, it's just kind of you get it wrong, whatever. But you'll start seeing these cycles. These cycles play out in the 1 second, 5 second, all the way up to the weekly. Different timelines, but the cycles are there. Tesla talked about that, right? Look at things in terms of waves and cycles. There was a $1 million tip right there. Learn that, and the market will teach you everything you need to know. And you don't need a whole lot of money to learn the market. Just go in there with your $5. All right. So I promised you I would wrap this up. Did I miss anything in my list of things? Review, vlogging, exploring what's possible. All right. I'm going to wrap up with exploring what's possible because most people need to see, right? They need to see do you see this? Look at it. There a dip happened here? No, that's not a dip. That is VWAP. Never mind. Forget it. That wasn't a dip. It looked like a dip. It's not a dip. Let me bring this spreadsheet. I did a deep dive in this spreadsheet. I'm not going to do that big a deep dive. I'm going to kind of do a quickly thing here on how this works. And I finally got it working. I'm almost ready to release this. All right. Yes, Cindy. I can almost hear her saying, when am I going to have access to it? And she deserves to have access. Well, I'm at the point where, so I do a lot of this stuff on my cell phone. So these colors don't show up on your cell phone in dark mode type of thing. So anyway, long story short, I'm making sure I got the color scheme right to make it usable for myself. I know it's kind of selfish of me. So this is a tool. It's a little complicated tool. I'm thinking about simplifying it. I'm thinking about having a version of this just for mission 1. And then you get the advanced version once you've completed mission 1. I'm still hammering that out. The only tier I have on Patreon, by the way, is just $5 a month. That's the only tier I have. If I've done something, if I've saved I'm doing a relationship series. So like if I've prevented you from having to go put $300,000 in with your attorney, right, for a retainer because you saved your marriage because of the stuff you get access to for free on any of my channels or through a Patreon membership, then do the right thing. Tip me 10% of what you're about to spend and waste. Well, that'd be what? That'd be $30,000. Yeah. Feel free, please do. The sooner I have more time, I can outsource stuff. The sooner I have my first goal is 3,333 Patreon members. But when I get to 33,333, I can start outsourcing at a whole nother level, hiring people to support me. And then you'll get better content. And it's just a matter of us doing it, creating a movement, right? And we get to 333,333 people from around the world. I figure if an exchange can get 20 million members, doing crypto. I can get 333 people that want to become wealthy and have a better life. Even if they don't want to become wealthy, just want to learn these principles. Then at $5 a month, you've empowered me. Working together, we can start influencing the world around us. But a lot of DTC folks in the future will be buying those political plates and talking about these principles next to the person that's about to get elected type of thing. That's kind of the bigger dream if you want to know what it is. So I didn't want to do it, but someone's got to do it. So I finally got to peace with it and said, I'm going to do it. All right. So this is where you set your goal, right? So my goal right here is 500, start with $250. I've got $106.33 left to go. And I'm not in right now because it didn't dip. In order to hit my mark, right, on a daily basis, I need this amount of money needs to go. What's left is $393.67 needs to get 2% ROI or $7.87. The spreadsheet is just, I don't want to run this calculation every time. So I just type in the information, and my real goal is 3%. But I like to be a little naughty. So I have my own little private thing. So that's what this is for. So like when I'm trying to figure out what to do next, or I get out of a trade, I update this number right here. And this tells me what I'm shooting for. All right. Cycles. So this is real data. This is real. Let me see if I can make this bigger. I'm getting better at making this bigger without screwing everything up. Let's see if I can do this. All right. So this is golden. This has finally got upgraded. This started on February 14th with $250. My last exit last night at 11:50 on Sunday. Yeah, didn't I get it back in? Yeah, I have to validate stuff later. So I pull this information out. You don't have to go to this much of detail, but this can be made available to you. But let's just go over the numbers. I'm not going to go over all the details of what this is and why this is here. I added the hours for those that may watch the other thing. I added the average per day. Remember, I had the average cycle. And I thought, oh man, I need to have the average per day because I'm lying to myself. I got it updated. So for right now, it's been 27 days on mission, starting with $250. I've got an ROI in 27 days of 63.5% return on investment. With, to me, very low risk, low leverage stuff. My highest leverage was 6%, but I've been doing 5%. 5% is my sweet spot right now. I can go up to 10, right? I'm just wanting to do something that's kind of really low risk stuff. Some of the earlier testing was at 3%, right? In fact, one of my bots, the larger, I got out, and anyway, I made 7%. It was 21 days. And the reason why it was so low is because it was low leverage. Anyway, so I'm resetting all that stuff. Now what's going on here is my average per cycle, right? So each one of these, right, if I average these together, and this is a learning thing. I don't have the system developed yet. I don't have the training for this. I'm creating it, right? I've averaged 3.5% since I started this. Kind of cool. My goal per day is 2%. Well, what was my actual? It's 2.36% actual. So I'm hitting my goal. I'm hitting my goal while I'm learning. This thing here, estimated APR, is absolutely meaningless, but it tells me, am I getting better? Am I dialing in the bot's results? Well, my last bot results, APR, if things would have continued to on, was over 1,000% APR. Ooh. But I've had as low as 210% APR. Yeah. I have had people who are really big in investment, traditional stuff, the stock market, S&P 500, are like, David, bullshit. Friend of mine, known me for 20 years, literally told me that to my face. And I said, well, let me show it to you. No, I don't believe you. He wouldn't believe me. He wouldn't even let me show him. I'm like, okay, this is my world. This is how you get wealth creating levels of return. And you need to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And that's what this is for. So I like to have real data. When you don't have real data, you have to do what's called performance. You have to guesstimate. You have to estimate. And you can do that, right? That's why I love this spreadsheet. This is what I do for myself. And then once I get it working for myself, I share it with the people that I'm working with, which is Patreon subscribers and actually the general public right now. Although the spreadsheet's only available will be only available to Patreon. It's not available to anyone right now. No one has access to this because I haven't cleaned it up. All right, so here, let me see here. My portfolio return on investment, ROI. Let's see. The average daily has been 2.36%. So this is actually 2.36%. Actual. Last time I was in here, it was actually it was gone down a little bit, but it's okay. Don't worry about that. So I started February 14th. So if I continue to do this and I get this 2.36 as an average ROI, when do I double my money? How long is it going to take to double my money? That's the first thing I need to figure out. Now, this is just guessing. Does anyone doubt? I started with $250. I'm at $393.60 now. Does anyone doubt whether I'm going to make the other $106.33? Do you have any doubt that I'm going to do that? No, there's no doubt. Right. You may doubt it if I didn't have this. I literally tracked every single bot related to that result right here. It totals up. It just totals up. All right. So the question is, I can't control the market. I don't know what's happening next, right? Right now I can only guess. But sometime, probably within the next month, I'm going to know exactly how many days it took me to complete mission 1. Now, this does not take into consideration that I'm getting better and better and better at it, right? Which means that whatever this is, I'll probably end up doing better over time. So I created this up to change colors so I could instantly see. So it's going to, it's kind of fun. A couple days ago, it was 36 days, right? And right now, if I continue this process at that rate, it's actually going to be 30 days to double the money. It'll be a little bit over double, 30 days. What's cool about what I teach people to do is my numbers are irrelevant other than just, hey, some dude did it, right? That's supposed to give you hope, light of the tunnel. What's going to give you your light of the tunnel is when you are doing it and you're tracking your results, and then you get complete mission 1, and then you know what your results are for you. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's maybe it's better, right? Doesn't really matter. It's a function of time, but you will get a result, right? I think I averaged 0.31% over 21 days in the other bot at 3x, right? I could put that in here. You want to see that? Let's do that. 0.31. Horrible. Not 0.31. It's a percentage. I got to figure out how to just keep it locked into its mode. So 0.031 percentage. These are the little things that drive me crazy, which is why I don't really. So that was the actual result, 21 days because of the crazy bank failing thing, right? So if I were to continue averaging that, how long would it take for me to double money? My spreadsheet's not big enough, right? It's not big enough. 146 days. Where did I reach the halfway mark? I could probably do it that way. I didn't. How it was? Would it be? My brain's not working. Start with 250, so it'll be $125 more. $375. 131 days, so maybe rough estimate 200 some days. I can take that number and then show you when you cross $1 million. Even though it's a really, really crappy result, most people don't run the numbers and they don't see that it's possible, right? They're hoping that in 40 years of working for someone else that it'll work for them. But MJ DeMarco's run the numbers in that, and it's not encouraging, not the reality of it anyway. So I want to put this back to what is real for me right now in this one particular portfolio, 2.36%. So 2.36%. It stayed as a percentage. 30 days. So now we can go over here and track missions. See, 36 days last time I looked at. We're going to change this to reality, 30 days. Gotten better. This is what this represents. So mission 1 is completing $250 to $500. This is a total business plan, right? So the next mission is to go from $500 to $1,000. That's mission 2 for this bot. Anyways, but when do I cross $1 million? Everyone wants to be a millionaire. When do you cross it, right? This is assuming you're doing the side of a tax thing. If not, whatever, you have to pay tax. Well, whatever. Most people cannot create a plan that they can reliably say, yes, I can do it. We can create plans and performas and ideas and big ideas. And if I write this book and 100,000 people buy the book, but we have no data to rely on, that is it even possible for us to do it? That's not what this is. So 12 missions, not 18 missions. It takes 18 missions starting with $5, by the way. I'll prove it to you here in a second. February 9th, 2024. So what is that? That's not even a year. I went from a little over a year to less than a year in a matter of a day or two because I've gotten better at it. My averages have gotten better. Wow. And when do I do this? I do this as a hobby. This particular bot, I do as a hobby before I go to bed at night. And then I kind of figure out throughout the day, depending on what happens to the market, I exit it. And if I get stuck, I get stuck. I've been stuck, I think, 4 days, a couple times. Let's look at it. How long have I been stuck? Over here, days, 4 days. Twice in a row, I got stuck for 4 days, twice, roughly. And it still averages out. This is real data. It's not important to you till it's your real data. And my goal is for DDTC, if you become a patron, is first of all, we got to get your infrastructure in place. Then we got to get your account set up, all that sort of stuff. Then we got to, if you don't have any money to set up a bot or whatever, then we got to work with that. Where do you get your money? I have a whole little game around that. Actually, I need to release that. It should be part of this. How to get money to invest if you have absolutely no money. How do you do it? I got it's fun stuff, actually. It's how I got started with crypto because I had no extra money. So, but I wanted to get started. So I had to figure out a way of doing it. I have a process for that. All right. So usually when I'm teaching this stuff, it's 20 missions. So I think this would make you a ruling elite. Would it? I think it would. 20 missions. October 6th, 2024. If I just keep this cadence going at night before I go to bed at night. If the market keeps being weird and every once a month some bank fails, if that happens, no bull runs. If a bull run happens, then all these numbers are wrong because I'll be able to leap through these missions hard and fast, even with a bot. It'll blow you away. But a sideways downtrending bear market with a lot of crap and news that affects the market, that's what these data is based on. I think anyone can do this. Not everyone can trade 100x stuff. I mean, I can train it. If they're willing to do the work and learn it, they could do it. But I think anyone can do the bot thing. I really, really, really do. We just have to protect your ability to do the bot thing. That's the problem. Oh, I mentioned the $5 thing, right? So I can't, if I put in zero, right? Started from zero, right? Everything's zero. You have to have some money. Well, I was low on $5. So this is the Homeless David 2.0 project. Let's take a look at that. Up. I did it wrong. So, we learn by making mistakes. We always have. That's how you learn to crawl and then to walk. So, just running the numbers theoretically. So to give you an idea, he went from zero with borrowed funds, and he was actually, well, we'll just leave it a 30-day cycle. He completed mission 1 in 6 days, and then they took his money back, and then he had to do another 2 days to complete mission 1. But he started from zero, and then he went on from there. So he ended up, before the FTX fiasco, which he wasn't counting on, got stuck halfway between 10 and 11, mission 11. That's $7,500 roughly from zero. And he did that in about 2 months. Last year during the bear market. No short trading. I would have leapfrogged if I was doing short trading. Why aren't I doing short trading? Well, I'll explain that another time. Because it's different. It's more expensive. I believe the market will ultimately unlimitedly go up. And I want to add it to my strategy. It's just with the long COVID impairments and stuff, I just have to accept who I am and what my capacities are, working full time, blah, 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 blah. It's just easier to say hyper focus on one type of trade. And then I couldn't even do that anymore because of the impairments. So I had to ask myself, How does this serve me? What do I need to do next? Well, I simplified and created something that I can do even with brain impairments with long COVID and intermittent memory problem issues. It's just horrible. I'm very thankful for my job, which I'm part of a team, and I have my own work processes so I can just keep my job type of thing. So starting with $5, when do you become a millionaire? It is 18 missions. Now, if you know that someone started from zero and was loaned $5, and then 6 days later they took the money back, whatever, and anyway they did this, and no matter how long it took, right, they got to here, that should be inspiring. I find it inspiring. I find it really, really inspiring. Most people, when they're selling stuff, these courses are showing you $80,000, whatever, but they started with $100,000. So I just like, you can't relate to that. Homeless person can't relate. Oh, well, yeah, of course you were able to make money off from a large amount of money, and that's impressive. That would replace my income. I'm impressed by that too. And now you want me to pay you $3,000 to learn how you did it. Oh, you still need my money. Are you as successful as you say you are? I mean, that's what goes through my mind. And some of these people are gambling addicts in the market. So they sell courses to support their gambling habit. I figured that out a long time ago too. So that's yeah. All right. Why 20 missions? Well, $5,242,880, and you factor in taxes, takes you back to the other spreadsheet. If you were to win the lottery, will probably replace your income, and then some. You have a nice lifestyle. You have earned your freedom in 20 missions, starting with $5. And if it takes you a while to learn how to do it, so what? I guarantee you do not have a better plan in life than this. And you may have dreams in business, a big business or little business, or you want to be a writer, you want to be an actor, you want to you have a business idea, you want to own a car. It doesn't really matter what that other dream is. You can fold this into this, and this will be supportive of it long. This will be your plan B in case that doesn't work out. That shit has, I shouldn't say that. That stuff has like a 93% failure rate if you are starting from zero. Just is what it is. And you need other people's money to reduce those failure rates, but those failure rates are still high because you don't have the management skills, the training, the knowledge. You may have a great idea. And if you have a great idea and it takes off, guess what? You're going to reach a point where the people you borrow money from are going to step in and take your dream from you. It happens all the time. Watch the Facebook story. It's just kind of crazy. Everyone needs to have a plan B that is viable, that they can do. And that's what DTC is bringing to the world. And I want to teach billionaires how to not be dicks. All these big things like FTX. Here's a guy had a young man, $28 billion, living in his own little, I don't know, sex commune down in the Bahamas, right? Rich parents, all the money in the world, all the opportunity to train, all this sort of stuff. And he had to defraud people. Why did he do that? Fear and scarcity. Greed. Greed comes from fear and scarcity, by the way. You'll fight it because money becomes too easy making this, and you'll stay in longer and you get stuck in trading. And I still deal with greed. Well, where's the greed come from? Fear and scarcity. Why did an already wealthy guy from a wealthy family have fear and scarcity as his core operating principles? Because his family, well, however they are, I don't know much about them. They're protecting it because they're afraid of losing it. Fear and scarcity. He was born and raised in fear and scarcity, even though he was born and raised to wealth. It's really kind of simple from a sociology perspective. And I get it's more complicated than that. There's abuse and things and what we're exposed to in our society and structural violence and all that sort of stuff. That's a conversation for another day. I'm just showing you the light at the end of the tunnel. And I hope I have accomplished that. I think I've accomplished it. If I'm missing something, reach out to me. I'm going to set up a thing where you can ask questions. I don't have it set up yet, especially for Patreon thing where they can submit questions. I'll review those. I'll do a Q&A maybe once a month starting out, and maybe I'll just broadcast it live so everyone in the world, because really I've got to reach a larger audience than what I'm reaching right now. And as you learn this stuff, and then we have teams of people doing this sort of stuff, I'm asking you to do is I want you to train your friends, your family, your kids, your grandkids, your parents that are sitting in a nursing home, bored, effing, silly out of lives with no purpose in life. Get them a VR unit. I'll do a broadcast about why that is, or if they're infirm, and then teach them how to do this so they have something to do. maybe they can upgrade to a better nursing home or something. I mean, seriously, if you're sitting around with having nothing better to do and you have some cognitive function to even understand what I've shared so far, yeah, this is for you too. Because I don't think people should be stuck at any age, even with any kind of infirmants. There's periods where you're convalescing and you can't do anything. I get that. But we have people that are stuck and the option they have is to watch TV. This is so much more fun than that. I know a guy that's stuck. He had a diabetic episode. He's kind of a family member person, and he's got a couple cell phones and stuff like that. And I keep telling the family to get him a VR. He's stuck. He's going crazy. He's already retired. He's just an incredibly smart man and whatever. I hope he tunes into this and watches this because he could do this. He could eat this thing up. And anyway, I think about people like that when I'm doing this. That's why I do it. Right? That's why I don't show you the big numbers because I don't want to impress you with that. I want to impress you with, yeah, I did this. I did this last year in one of a really bad bear market while everyone was whatever staying away. Yeah, I went from here to halfway here. And that project's still moving forward, right? They just closed out 7 point something percentage on a bot. Anyway, that's a whole nother test. I'm not even talking about it. And I got other stuff. And anyway, you get the idea. All right. I think I have completed what I've wanted to do today. What I usually do is I run some things and then I have some closing words afterwards for anyone that's actually dared to hang out. If you want to watch this again, please go to YouTube and watch it on the channel there because it adds the statistics. That channel is not monetized. Someday it will be monetized when there's 1,000 people watching it or 4,000 watch hours or a combination of both. Then you can support this mission by just going and watching it there. How cool is that? And if you're a Patreon subscriber, then, you help build it. Help me build my community. $5 a month, $60 a year. There's no special deals. He'll pay a year in advance. No, if you like this, you're going to like this. And if you like me, you're going to like me. And I figure there's got to at least be enough people for me to push this mission forward on that. And it's not about me being a guru or anything like that. It's about I want you to learn this stuff and then teach it. You don't have to give me credit for it. But while we're building, I have a whole leadership model and a how to get things done model with consensus and leadership and teams and stuff. And I can't even roll that out till we have enough people that are willing to do stuff. And I want all the people, all the first 3,333 people, I want them all to get past that $10 million mark so that they can be qualified investors in crypto. Just, you know what I mean? And they can start having influence. And I'm going to charge them with training other people. And they're going to bring content and information and insights that I'm not having. And I think we're better together. And I've studied some of the cults and I've seen the crazy shit that millions of people and tens of thousands of people are like turning over their assets for. And just over the idea of making a better world and then using fear and crap and it works. It's like, well, and they don't empower anybody to do anything. I call it death cult stuff because the rewards are after they die. And like, well, let's change our world while we're here, right? And after we die, we'll deal with that once we get there, right? And no one really knows. Like those people who say they know, they don't know, right? They hope. They may talk like they know. They may talk from a position of authority, but they really don't. They don't know. And I could use a 5-part divinity truth filter to prove to you logically why they don't know. But the fact is, until we're there, we're not going to face it. But what we do know is we're here now. So why don't we make our world a better place now by making better decisions now? I'm creating a world of opportunity that other people created years ago through crypto, right? People created the idea of trades and stocks way back in the horse and buggy day in New York when you could walk up and buy stocks. People starting a business would just go and create stocks and sell to you while you're on your horse and buggy. We've got regulations now that would make that illegal, but that's how it all started. It's really cool, the history of it. But back then there was freedom and liberty and then scammers started figuring out, oh, well, we could defraud people. Why? Because they didn't have a dream or vision. Why? Because we create a culture that creates it. Yeah, it's just, anyway, I'm got to wrap up. So look, a dip's happening right here in the middle over here. There's a 3-minute. Oh, what? It came back down to the where? Imagine it. Where did it go? Oh, the middle Bollinger Band on the 3-minute. Oh, if I was active trading, that's probably where I would have guessed it would have happened. I would have been in here. I would have gotten out here. I would have gotten here again. I would have gotten out here, and I've been waiting for that again. Active trade. I just showed you how to become a millionaire in active trading in that 5 seconds. Just you won't have any confidence to do it because of the mind game thing. I'm working on a training system for that. Blah 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 blah. All right. I'm very excited with the content that came out today. So when I'm done with this, what I do is I save this to break out the cool parts later, make it more efficient, whatever. I just don't have time to edit. So when you become a Patreon subscriber, you are helping me begin the process of creating the cash flows necessary for me to outsource editing and other stuff. But I actually need to get to 33,000 people. But I'm going to start with 3,333 people because I can start buying out my time to devote to this full time. My goal is to have that kind of membership within the next 15 months because I'm planning on retiring one way or the other anyway. And that actually will give me the baseline cash flow to just focus on this as if it was my job. And then I'm working for my community. And that's how I want to spend the rest of my life. I don't want to just retire with money or whatever. I mean, where are we going to retire? Well, we got family in Michigan, so we're thinking about doing that for a while. There's places all over the world that we're looking at right now. So I bought a lifetime subscription to international living. So we're running the numbers, but it's all about freedom and liberty to me. So where can I be free and not be disadvantaged? It's kind of Dubois is looking really, really big. Coin Bureau did a whole thing on that. He does great content. I remember when he was a little guy, no one really knew who he was. He was just doing so much, and he's big now. He's the dude. The guy can influence markets. But he did a thing about where in the world you should live if you're doing crypto. It was last week or something. It was a great presentation. He's currently living in Dubois, and he reveals about Dubois lifestyle that you'd think you'd have to be rich, but he's not. He's smart, and he's a good young guy. I love his content. And there are others. Anyway, I'll be sharing all that stuff. All right, so I will wrap up with affirmations that I've learned over time from trading. So I'm going to play that again, and then we're wrapping up. So now I'm wrapping up. I have the capability right now to stream to like 5 different platforms. So like this is being streamed to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Now I think there's some folks on Twitch. Shout out to the folks on Twitch that are tuning into this. There's some folks on Facebook, and every once in a while some folks on YouTube. YouTube's a new channel. I'm trying to consolidating data. You have no idea how much data I have to sort through. And then I forget. I mean, I literally wrote a book twice. Yeah, Are You Ready to Become a Billionaire? I wrote it twice. I forgot about the original manuscript. This was one of the impairments. It's like, man, I'm driving myself crazy sometimes. So the reason I want to like consolidate into YouTube because of the monetization engine in YouTube. The sooner my time is freed up, folks, the sooner you help me free up my time, the sooner I can wake up and just do this all day, has a job, and then share and then edit, whatever, outsource. That's what I'm trying to do. So the reason why I'm going out is I'm just letting I'm here, right? Brand new channel, DDTC, Wealth and Health on YouTube. Please, I'm just trying to migrate folks there. I know Twitch is cool. I know Twitter is cool. Facebook is really cool, but I've got to like build and set a good example for how to do this sort of thing. So anyway, that's what it's about. Here's a cute little short here. When I created that, it was just like, there's so many ways I could use that. I like it. I like the vibe of it. It's like everyone's looking for a way out, right? And I love this one. So let me explain that. So POTU is the principles, right? Actually, let's get rid of this. Right. POTU is the principles. DTC is the methodology right now with crypto. It doesn't have to be crypto, but these principles work in any of the markets. Is the processes for empowerment, right? Everyone's telling you how to make money, business, this, buy, all this sort of stuff, but they're not teaching you how to live. If you don't know how to live, you're not happy with your life now, even if I threw money at you, life would just continue to be the same. In fact, money actually does complicate things. You have more to deal with, more stewardship stuff. So if I can teach you how to be a steward and teach you all these principles, it doesn't matter what your religious belief system, or if you're an atheist, it doesn't matter who you are, right? If we bring these common principles we all share, no matter what our language, our culture, our color, our race, our religious ideology, that we all share some principles. If we make those primary and important, path of the unlimited, right? So you believe in an unlimited deity? Great. If you're an atheist, that means you would say if an unlimited deity existed, then yeah, this would work. Then that first principle is the golden rule. If we can just start having those conversations, start talking about people thinking that way instead of afraid of everything. I know. Someone's gonna scream, well, what about prophecy, David? Well, good. I'm writing a chapter about that. I believe that so that would be determinism, and that means it's predetermined. So if that means that everything's determined, that means you have no free will. So why bother? You're just a pawn on a game, of someone else's game of the gods and the goddesses. It's the Greek kind of concept where you don't have a choice. That criminal has no choice. You have no choice. You live the life you have. Kind of sad. All right. So that's what prophecy is. It's a predetermination of the end result, and it's horror. It doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. It's a needy God that needs money, needs this, needs that, needs war, needs warriors, needs religion, all this needy stuff. No. What makes sense is some very smart people way back in the day, thousands of years ago, realized based on narcissism and sociopathy, they didn't have the language for that back then, or maybe they do. They realized that if things continue to go that way, that we would destroy ourselves. And maybe they were tripping on shrooms and stuff. Well, actually, sociology has proven that they probably were tripping on shrooms, but they were able to write shit down. Well, the people that were afraid, fear and scarcity, and in power, fear and scarcity, started creating systems to protect their power, fear and scarcity, and to rule over the little people. This is my theory of how this all started happening. So, if I can prophesize to you how horrible someday everything's going to go to shit, and I'm going to tell you that I'm going to protect you from having that happen, but you got to support me. You got to listen to me. You got to follow me. You got to tithe to me. You got to be whatever the rules say it is. People are scared shitless because that's a reptilian brain you're talking to, right? You ever duck something flying at you like a baseball or a beach ball, or you ever duck? That's your reptilian brain protecting you, right? Well, we have a science now. It's evolved thousands of years of how to rule over you without your permission through these fear concepts. All right. So I think they did is they took some logic and reason to say, listen, dude, if you don't stop doing this, we're going to self-destruct. We're going to have we're going to have this, right? And they didn't want that information out there. So the Magi were slaughtered, or the prophet was slaughtered or whatever. And they said, well, so-and-so, the great prophet who died by an accident, said this. And they warped what he said. They weaponized it for their own power and control. So we have people happening that in my culture today. This is my theory. So if you hear people talking, spouting prophecies, an unlimited being. Let's go Abrahamic religion, Bible stuff. Let's go there. I'm gonna wrap up with this. All right. So we're what 5, 6, 7,000 year history, right? We have evidence, 2 stories of a talking donkey in the old and in the new. Talking donkey seemed to be a thing. One situation of a talking burning bush. So that which is divine, unlimited, doesn't need a prophet to get a message out. In fact, in there in the Old Testament, talking about the still small voice, if you just shut up and learn how to listen to it. And Jesus was kind of an interesting character, and Islam recognizes him as a great prophet. Blah blah blah. It's cool stuff like that, right? But what did he teach? He said, "Our Father." Did he say that after death or before death? Before he did. What was your relationship with whatever's divine? You're part of the family. Well, you can't make money off that. But there's his words. That was one of my first revelations. I read that. I didn't get past that. I was like, wait a second. And he said it was finished and all this stuff. And my brain started saying, wait a second, something's not right here. That started happening to me at age 6. So my theory is is these concept of Armageddons and dooms and glooms were really great because at the time they were being created, like the greatest weapon they were facing was a catapult or a trebuchet, right? And then people, creative writers, like we can we can envision whole worlds and destruction and stuff like that without actually having the technology. Star Trek created all sorts of weapons and technology that did not exist, right? Created out of thin air. Well, these people created ideas of how we could destroy ourselves. Really horrible things that always dealt with fire, right? Because that's the only thing they had. The biggest weapon they could do to burn down a castle was herd pigs underneath the castle and light the pigs on fire, and it would destroy the cornerstone, and the things would collapse. It was actually a tactic of war. It's kind of cool. We have all this knowledge and history. A lot of folks didn't hear about it. It's kind of nasty. It's a violation of life, but it worked, right? So therefore, all these apocalyptic things were about fire, right? And we have people studying this stuff or whatever, but the principle is still the same. Does it make sense the divine creator of all this and all the universes is going to require some last Armageddon of an enemy? Like the creator of all this has an enemy? Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is people obsessed with power, afraid, fear, and scarcity of losing their power, weaponizing all this stuff. And it was meant to be a warning. So I'm at peace with that. Okay. And I'm not here to create a new religion or anything like that. Your religion is just fine because, usually somewhere in your history they conquered, and it was horrible, but it is what evolved, right? So we have to assume, well, I guess it played out the way it's supposed to. Okay, well, I can accept that to a certain degree. I think we could have done it all without all the bloodshed and the war. I think we went off track because we didn't listen to some of the basic things. Like we're still trying to figure out the golden rule. I think they taught us that in the last epoch, and then we had shit beyond our control wipe us out, and we restarted 10,000 years ago, right? That was last epoch, right? But even then, some civilization was going around training people on how to start civilization. We've verified this now. It's cool stuff, which disrupts all the power, fear, and scarcity mongering people. Like at some point, we got to face the history of ourselves, and none of that does anything with what your tomorrow or today is today. It's kind of fun to explore and think about. But if I can free you up from the control and fear of it, without making it bad or attacking you or attacking your religion or your ideology or your belief system or arguing with you, and just say, well, do you believe in this principle? Yeah, well, let's start there. Well, and then what? Well, until our species has mastered that, there is no then what. To me, there's no religion, there's no nothing until we've learned how to at least not be evil to each other. That's the golden rule. Until something better comes along, until that has been mastered globally, till China and Russia and Iran and all the religious belief systems agree, yeah, we should do this first. We got our histories, we got our poetry, we got all these things. But let's face the fact that this was a convert or die thing. That was pretty evil. Can we face that? We can't even face that on any of our religious belief systems, any of them. Buddhism, right? Oh, they're the big breathe, right? It never says thou shalt not breathe, But, what did they do to Buddha? They chopped up his body parts, 10 different kingdoms, and got all in fetishism. And I see all sorts of idols of Buddha, right? Siddhartha and whatever. And he asked people not to make statues of him before he died. We don't listen. And these are the people that won't hurt a mosquito. I have no problem swatting a fly or mosquito, right? But war, violence, force, and it evolves us, right? So it is what it is. It's okay. We can research it now. We can understand it. We don't have to apologize for it, other than we need to learn from it. It's when we lie about it because we don't want to face the truth of it. That's when we're having an ethical issue. And almost all of our governments, the U.S. government has done things and found out things we're not proud of. But we have stuff that are proud of. It was a hybrid thing. We did the best that we could at the time. Well, let's do that again. Our powers and our ability to create what's next. So that's the idea, for you to be empowered in your world to create what's next, to create meaning. That's your superpower, by the way. Most of the time, we don't know why shit happens, and we create really evil meanings. That's our reptilian brain running out of control, trying to warn us of shit, right? Actually, this might be a better overlay. Try that one. Well, that's kind of cute. Maybe I'll do that one. But it's running wild, right? And it's supposed to warn us. It's supposed to work with us. It does serve us, right? What if we were creating stories that served us, like that video I showed you, the short little one? Everything serves you. Everything has a purpose. That's your default assumption. And if you can't find one and one doesn't surface, then you use your creative talents to create one that serves you and a higher good. How about that be the core principle versus some evils living under my bed and wanting to come and destroy the world? I mean, I like it for entertainment. I like the good versus evil narrative for entertainment purposes, but I don't want to live under that as my lens in life, because now all of a sudden I see evil everywhere. And then I'm ignoring all the good stuff happening. And the truth is, all the good stuff happening is kind of boring. The evil stuff actually makes life kind of interesting. That's why we're obsessed with it. All right. That was your bonus segment for hanging out. I see one person is hanging out here with me. Who are you from? Oh, someone from Twitch. It must be the Twitch person that keeps showing up. We need to connect. I want to know who you are. Thanks for tuning in, hanging out for me for a while. I appreciate that. Help me build this. I can't see your name, and I can't see comments or anything like that. I think someone on Facebook chatted with me earlier. I think you have to go to like stream dot something. And anyway, they're still working out the tech. Someday I'll be able to see everyone live, or we'll be able to chat on a Discord server or something. I'm just not there yet. Help me get there. Just one guy with an impairment, doing the best he can, because I decided I just could not talk about this stuff anymore. And my friends and family, people who know me, are sick of hearing the same thing. So they are trained. They're ready to go. Brought in the audience. So that's it. Everyone, appreciate you, whoever you are, whenever you're listening to this. Please go do the Patreon thing, or do you rewatch us on YouTube. Go to YouTube, subscribe, like there. If you want to rewatch it, go rewatch on YouTube so I can build that up there and help me get this done. All right. That's my call to action, I think they call it. All right. And I'll do this last one here. What is this one? Aren't those shorts kind of cute? I think they're kind of cute. Everyone, have a great night. I'm going to spend some time with my goddess Diana. Yeah, her name is Diana. I referred to her as my goddess since we started dating, and she does the health piece of what we're doing, and it's called the Optavia Goddess. You can find her on Facebook. She's really, really good. She has a cute little video I made for her that shows her results. I might play it for you, although I just don't have it available to hit play, but it's really, really cool. So go check it out. And like her thing and follow her. She's really the nicest person. She's way nicer than I am. She's better to look at too. I can't get her on live streams yet, but I'm almost getting her to talk in there, maybe talking about some stuff, but I haven't gotten there yet. Maybe we'll get her to make a guest appearance. But you can go see what she did last year around her health. It's transformative. What her and her sister accomplished last year is just mind blowing. Every time I see it, I get tears in my eyes, because I know I had a piece. I had a little something to do with influencing that, and Facebook won't let me advertise with it, and I was really annoyed by that. All right, everyone, have a great night. I'm gonna go enjoy my time with my beloved, and I'm gonna just start doing this stuff more and more. I don't have the time to edit, so I'm just gonna pop out whatever I want to talk about that day. It'll be a vlog. Maybe it'll be everybody. Yeah, I repeat things. Just ask my kids. Repetition, 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 repetition. That's how we learn. All right. So you're going to learn about the principle just through osmosis. You're going to learn about tech stuff. You're going to learn about security. You're going to learn about empowerment. You're going to just from hanging out. So we'll do that method if we have to, if that's what works. That what works is what works. All right. I keep looking over here to look at myself, and I should be looking here. So just see you later. Till